Naruto Reborn Wind Shadow. Attack the Country of Fire in the beginning chapter 61 to 80. From the perspective of a village Kage, Rasa's words at this time were absolutely without any problems. Whether it was the third Raikage, or the third Tsuchikage, Onoki, they couldn't find any fault with Rasa's words. So, fourth Kazekage, what exactly do you mean? The third Raikage, asked impatiently. Rasa had already prepared his response. My idea is very simple, and I have already made it clear in the letter. As long as our village receives the benefits it deserves, supporting our Sunagaker to participate in this war, our Sunagaker will definitely go to war. Unfortunately, Onoki directly refused. Don't joke around, fourth Kazekage. Even the Kurigaker, who are participating in this war as mercenaries, are paying for their own military expenses. There is absolutely no reason for us to pay your military expenses. Moreover, I heard that your Sunagaker obtained a large sum of military funds in the surprise attack on the Land of Fire more than a month ago, didn't you? That's right, but our Sunagakur is different from your Kumogakur and Iwagakur. The barren environment we are in makes Sunagakur very short of military expenses. The military expenses obtained from the surprise attack on the Land of Fire only alleviated our poverty a little. Hearing Rasa blatantly lie like this, Yekura behind Rasa had a strange expression on her face. As expected, I am not suitable to become a Kazekage. If it were her, she probably wouldn't have such a thick face. Mikawa was very calm. The atmosphere in the entire Great Hero Hall fell silent once again. At this time, both the people from Kumogakur and Iwagakur could see it. The purpose of this young Kazekage of Sunagakur was very simple. If they wanted Sunagakur to participate in this operation to besiege Konoha, Kumogakur or Iwagakur had to pay a certain amount of military expenses. But this was simply impossible. Neither Kumogakur nor Iwagakur could agree to such conditions. Onoki said directly, Don't even think about it, Kazekage. There has never been such a rule in the entire ninja world. The military expenses of each of our ninja villages are very precious and cannot be provided to you. This will make the other villages laugh their heads off. The third Raikage, also said, I heard that the daimyo of the Land of Fire has also been urging Konoha to attack your Land of Wind. If Konoha is allowed to recover this time, they will definitely counterattack your Land of Wind. Unfortunately, Rasa was unmoved. That is something our Sunagakur needs to consider, so there is no need for you to worry about it. Seeing that Rasa was so unyielding, the veins on the third Raikage's forehead throbbed, and Onoki also frowned tightly. At this time, Dodai behind the third Raikage stood up again. Sorry, Raikage-sama, I have something to say. Oh, Dodai, speak. Yes. Dodai stepped forward, nodded and saluted to the cages before looking at Rasa and saying, Kazekage, since you took the initiative to propose this three-cage summit, then you must have made some preparations, right? Why not just propose your conditions? Of course, if it is as excessive as before, then forget it. Our Kumogakur is not a sucker either. We will only meet on the battlefield then. Now everyone's eyes turned to Rasa. Rasa smiled lightly. It's easy to talk to smart people. My idea is very simple. Rasa looked at everyone and slowly said the plan that had already been arranged. With our current military strength in Sunagaker, it is impossible for us to participate in the war against Konoha with all our forces. I think you can't afford that price either, but to be honest, we in Sunagaker are unwilling to give up such a good opportunity to weaken Konoha. Therefore, I have a suggestion, let's do it in the style of mercenaries. Mercenaries? Everyone was shocked. That's right. Your Iwagakur and Kumogakur will issue tasks to our Sunagakur. Anything is fine. Attacking the Land of Fire. Attacking Konoha. Destroying Konoha's rear. We don't want much, just according to the normal price of mercenaries in the ninja world now. This made the third Raikage and the third Tsuchikage fall into contemplation. Under the circumstances that Rasa would not budge and take the initiative to attack Konoha, this was indeed a good way. It was just impossible to get Kumogakur and Iwagakur to agree to this. No. That would be of no use to us at all. The power of mercenaries is too weak. What we want is for Sunagakur to attack Konoha with all its forces. Only in this way can we put enough pressure on Konoha. Attack with all our forces? Rasa chuckled and said slowly. Don't joke around, third Tsuchikage. If the third Raikage said that, he would be qualified, but your Iwagakure has only been taking advantage of Kumogakure's opportunity to attack Konoha to muddle through. When will your Iwagakure be ready to attack Konoha with all your strength before you say these big words? You brat. Onoki's expression changed and became extremely ugly. Kozu, who was the Jinchuriki of the Four Tails, only frowned slightly and didn't say much. The three people from Kumogakure had a look of watching the show. Fortunately, the third Raikage also knew the importance of the matter. Then, Kazekage, state your conditions. What extent can you actually achieve? What extent? Rasa pretended to be thoughtful. That is to say, Raikage is willing to agree to the cooperation method of mercenaries. No. The third Raikage shook his head. Just like what Onoki said, the cooperation method of mercenaries is of no use on the battlefield at all. Moreover, there are already Kirigakure guys causing trouble in the Land of Fire. It doesn't matter if there is one more Sanagakure. I understand, then, Raikage, what do you hope our Sanagakure will achieve? At least you have to hold back a part of Konoha's forces. Compared to Onoki's petty calculations, Kumogakure, which was now the main force on the battlefield, cared more about quickly ending the war with Konoha. Therefore, he was more proactive at the negotiating table. The Land of Rivers, Rasa said lightly, causing the third Raikage to be stunned. Our Sanagakure can make a gesture of attacking Konoha, but the battlefield is limited to the Land of Rivers. As a sincerity, this part can be free, but if you want to go further, then you have to add money. You brat, are you still a village Kage? All you talk about is money. Don't you want to avenge your village's third Hokage? As soon as Onoki's very unhappy words came out, it was Mikawa who was even more unhappy. This is our village's business, Tsuchikage, you talk too much. Onoki said without fear. Kazekage, it seems that you can't manage your subordinates well, they have no manners at all. Rasa said indifferently. There's no way, I've already told you, this Kazekage of mine is not easy to be. Although the words were like this, no one present heard a trace of dissatisfaction from Rasa's mouth. Instead, there was a feeling of indulgence and doting. Yekuru couldn't help but put on a strange smile on her face at this time. Seeing this, Onoki could only say unhappily, you brat. Rasa's patience at this time had also reached its limit. Stop talking nonsense, old man. You only need to tell me now whether your Iwagakure agrees to my proposal. Rasa was not a naive idealist. Therefore, he had no intention of helping Onoki find himself. Regarding the old fellow's disrespectful behavior, Rasa directly retorted. You. Onoki's expression turned gloomy, but this time, he no longer used the contemptuous term, brat, to address Rasa. He plopped back into his seat, looking like he didn't want to express his opinion. I agree. The third Raikage directly made his decision, while also looking at the third Tsuchikage. Onoki. What about Iwagakure? Don't forget, we have a common enemy now. Onoki certainly wouldn't care about such a threat. However, Onoki was a person who calculated benefits very clearly. The deal Rasa proposed at this time actually aligned with the interests of Iwagakure. The shadow Uchiha Madara cast on him was too great, so as long as he could weaken Konoha, or even destroy Konoha in one fell swoop, then the deal Rasa proposed would be a guaranteed profit. As for mercenaries, Onoki also understood very well that if a problem could be solved with money, compared to sacrificing the lives of his village's ninjas, it wasn't a problem at all. No problem, I agree too. As Onoki's voice fell, it meant that this meeting had reached a conclusion more easily than expected. Then, next was the time to discuss some details. However, this had nothing to do with the three Kage. After they set the general direction of cooperation, they left the details to their subordinates in the village. As a sign of sincerity, the ninjas of each village also began to retreat, and the Kage of each village also returned to their respective camps. After all, now that cooperation had been confirmed, the next step was to prepare to concentrate forces to attack the Land of Fire. This, of course, couldn't be hidden from Konoha's spies, so the situation in the entire ninja world began to surge again. On the Sanagakure side, The Sanagakure ninjas also began to retreat towards the village in batches, but Rasa was not in a hurry to retreat. Dash 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 dash. Are you really determined to meet this leader of the Akatsuki organization? Inside Sanagakure's camp, Mikawa, who was ready to evacuate, asked hesitantly. According to Mikawa's values, he couldn't understand why Rasa, as the Kazekage, would want to meet the leader of this Akatsuki organization. Yes, now that I've already agreed, it wouldn't hurt to meet him. I understand. Since Rasa had already decided, he couldn't say anything. Then, I'll take the village's ninjas away first. Yes, be prepared, next is the battle with Konoha. At this time, Yekura also came over. Rasa thought she was here to say goodbye like Mikawa, but unexpectedly, she chose to stay. Looking at Rasa's puzzled expression, Yekura pouted and explained. Just in case, I'll stay to protect you, so you don't end up like the third Kazekage. Although these were words of concern, Rasa found it strange. What did she mean by, like the third Kazekage? No need, with Maki and Yakura Maru here, there won't be any problems. Seeing that Rasa didn't appreciate it, Yekura rolled her eyes at Rasa. No. I'll stay anyway. On the one hand, I'm in charge of communicating with the Akatsuki, and on the other hand, I also want to meet this brat from the Akatsuki. Hearing this, Rasa naturally couldn't refuse. The two left the camp together. With Mikawa leading most of the ninjas away, the entire camp looked scattered. Yekura looked at the exhausted people leaving, and for some reason, she asked Rasa. Do you think this ninja world will ever truly usher in peace? Peace. Rasa looked at Yekura with some doubt. Her delicate face was full of loneliness, and there was a hint of confusion in her expression. Why do you ask that? Yekura replied. I don't know why, but it seems that in my memory, this world is always at war. Yekura slowly fell into recollection. When I was born, the first Shinobi World War had just ended, so as a child at that time, I had no impression of the war. I thought it was just adults fighting. That was the happiest time of my life until 13 years ago when I had just graduated as a genin. The second Shinobi World War broke out. I still remember what I looked like when I killed someone for the first time. At that time, I realized that people die in war, and from that time on, in my memory, the battlefield seemed to never stop, with dead people everywhere. My teammates, relatives, and teachers all died in that war. I originally thought that after that war ended, the ninja world could have peace for a while, but unexpectedly, after only a few years, war is about to begin again. Although Rasa had the original owner's memories, as a transmigrator, he couldn't empathize with Yekura. He really wanted to comfort Yekura, that war would eventually stop one day, but Rasa, who knew the future plot, knew that this was impossible. Even if the Third Shinobi World War ended, there would still be the fourth. After Kagaya Otsutsuki was defeated, there would still be the attacking Otsutsuki clan. War would never stop. Yekura seemed to feel Rasa's embarrassment, and said with a strange smile on her face. Is my question difficult to answer? Rasa thought for a while, nodded, and said slowly. It's very difficult. The existence of ninjas is originally to serve war, and people's desires will not stop. As long as there are desires, the war will not end. Won't it end? Yekura's expression became even more lonely. Yeah. Rasa thought for a while and gave a comforting answer. Although the war will not stop, we can still find ways to make peace last longer, but these methods are a bit difficult. Yekura immediately turned around and looked at Rasa. What methods? Rasa's answer was very direct. It's very simple, either find a common enemy for all ninjas, so that everyone can unite and not easily start a war, or unite all the divided countries once and for all. Yekura's gaze suddenly became serious. Because both of the methods Rasa said were too difficult to accomplish. Whether it was finding a common enemy or unifying the entire ninja world, it was as difficult as ascending to heaven. Is this really possible? Who knows? Rasa did not answer Yekura, but looked into the distance. Maybe one day, we will personally complete this goal, who knows? Yekura was shocked. Her beautiful eyes looked at Rasa's eyes with light, her eyes moved slightly. She opened her mouth slightly, as if she wanted to ask something, but for some reason, she couldn't say it. At this moment, Rasa also turned around and said with a smile. "Don't be dazed, our guests are here, outside the Sanagakure camp." The trio of Yahiko, Nagato, and Konan, wearing the Akatsuki uniform with black background and red clouds, arrived at the entrance of the Sanagakure camp. They looked at the Sanagakure ninjas who had already begun to evacuate, their brows slightly furrowed. So fast, it had only been a day since the three-cage summit, how could there be results so quickly? Logically speaking, the retreat of Sanagakure was a good thing, which meant that this war might not break out, but inexplicably, the rapid end of the three-cage summit gave the Akatsuki members a bad feeling. Perhaps an even greater war was about to break out. Just as the three were puzzled, a beautiful figure appeared in front of them. "You are the leader of Akatsuki?" Yahiko composed himself, took a few steps forward, and said slowly. "Yes, my name is Yahiko, and I am the leader of Akatsuki. These are my partners, Konan and Nagato. I am Yokai, a Jonin of Sanagakure. Come with me, the cage is waiting for you." Under Yokai's lead and the curious gazes of the surrounding Sanagakure ninjas, the three slowly walked into the Sanagakure camp. Along the way, the three were very vigilant, paying attention to their surroundings to prevent any traps. Fortunately, they were safe and sound all the way. This made Yahiko look at the cold yokai in front of him and ask courageously. "Is Sanagakure about to retreat? Has the three-cage summit ended?" Yokai ignored them and simply said, "You can ask the cage when you see him." Soon, the three arrived at the camp tent where Luo Sha was. As soon as the three entered, they saw Luo Sha, wearing the white cage robe, sitting behind the table. At this moment, time seemed to freeze slightly within the large tent. Luo Sha also didn't expect that the ones who came to see him this time would be the trio of Yahiko, Konan, and Nagato. They were really bold. How should he put it? The first impression these three gave was youth. Although they looked like adults, there was still a unique childishness in their expressions. Especially Yahiko, whose clear eyes revealed a kind of naivety that was ignorant of the world. He was somewhat similar to the future Uzumaki Naruto. Konan, on the other hand, was indeed very beautiful, especially her eyes, which made people couldn't help but take a second look. As for Nagato, his red long hair concealed the appearance of the Rinnegan, making it impossible for Luo Sha to see. While Luo Sha was observing the three were also looking at this cage of Sanagakure. Similarly, the first impression Luo Sha gave the three was youth. Although they had long known that this fourth cage of Sanagakure was very young, the inherent impression of a cage in their hearts still made them feel surprised when they first saw Luo Sha. In addition to youth, the three felt a mature and steady temperament from Luo Sha. Especially Yahiko. He looked at Luo Sha with some envy, because Luo Sha at this time was the image Yahiko had in mind of what a leader should be, instead of being as silly as himself, not good at anything. Unlike Yahiko, Konan and Nagato had a strange feeling. They didn't know if it was an illusion, but the two always felt that the cage in front of them seemed to know them. The gaze that stayed on them had an indescribable strangeness. Especially Nagato, he could feel that the moment Luo Sha's gaze fell on him, it was staring at his eyes. However, before the two could investigate, Luo Sha spoke, breaking the silence in the camp tent. "How old are you?" The strange question stunned the three, and then they frowned slightly. Yahiko walked out and asked, "Cage, do you think we are children?" Yokai watched the conversation with great interest. She was interested in these three young people from Akatsuki, and even more curious as to why Luo Sha, as the cage, wanted to see these three young people. "Aren't you?" Luo Sha asked back. Yahiko subconsciously wanted to refute something, but Luo Sha's next words made them slightly stunned. "At your current age, it's indeed remarkable to be able to achieve what you have now." Yahiko and his group were indeed very young. In terms of age, Yahiko and Nagato were the oldest, only 15 years old, and Konan was a little younger at 14. In comparison, Luo Sha was already an adult, and was already 23 years old this year. The sudden praise made Yahiko a little at a loss. Then he thought about it, scratched his head, and said embarrassedly with a smile. Thank you for the praise. At this moment, yokai in the camp tent looked strangely at the silly Yahiko. Is this guy really the leader of Akatsuki? He looks like an idiot. Conan, with her somewhat innocent little face, also showed a hint of embarrassment and tugged at Yahiko's sleeve. Fortunately, Rosha said very calmly, "Speak, what do you, as the leader of Akatsuki, want to see me for? However, if it's about world peace, then don't say it, it's a waste of time." Why? Yahiko was really similar to Naruto, without a trace of the steadiness of an Akatsuki leader. Hearing Rosha's words, he couldn't wait to ask. Don't you like war so much? Even if you don't care about as small countries, don't you care about the lives of the ninjas in your own villages? Yahiko's excited appearance surprised yokai. She originally thought that this Akatsuki was just a mercenary organization hanging up a false slogan of ninja peace to seek personal gain. But now it seems that these young people are really very interesting. This made her even more curious about how Rosha would answer this young man. Rosha's answer was very simple. He looked at the excited Yahiko in front of him and asked back. "Kid, let me ask you, what do you think a ninja is?" The sudden question stunned the trio of Yahiko, because the three were somewhat familiar with this sentence. Once upon a time, they had also asked teacher Jiraiya this question, but teacher Jiraiya did not give them an answer, but instead asked them to find it themselves. Now, 4 or 5 years have passed, and they still haven't found their own answer. The sudden speechlessness made the atmosphere in the entire camp tent awkward. Yahiko might have his own ideas in his heart, but facing Rosha's imposing pressure, he was somewhat hesitant for a while. This meant that his belief was not so firm. "What, leader of Akatsuki, don't you have an answer in your heart?" Seeing this, Rosha asked back even more coldly, and his aura suddenly pressed up. Fortunately, at this time, Conan, who was behind Yahiko, saw Yahiko's hesitation and took the initiative to stand up and ask back. "Lord Kazekage, then what is your answer? What exactly is a ninja?" Conan suddenly attracted everyone's attention. Rosha looked at the beautiful Conan with an appreciative look and said, "Smart little girl." Rosha leaned back on the chair and made a very relaxed posture and said, "My answer is very simple, that is, the so-called ninja is just a simple tool." Tool? This answer not only stunned the trio of Yahiko, but even yokai was stunned. They all didn't understand why Rosha would say this answer. Fortunately, Rosha gave an explanation. That's right, the so-called ninjas are just war tools kept by the daimyo of the various countries they belong to. You think it's us ninjas who like war, but the ones who really like war are not us, but the great powers behind us. So, if you want to persuade, it's useless to persuade us, you should go persuade those daimyo. Let's count all the wars in the Naruto storyline. Besides the 4th Shinobi World War, there were also the other 3 Shinobi World Wars. When you get down to it, they were all wars between the countries to which the major ninja villages belonged. There aren't many conflicts of interest between the ninja villages themselves. After all, this ninja world, while not large, isn't small either. If it were just the ninja villages, there would be plenty of room for everyone to develop peacefully. For example, take Konoha and Suna. Both are just large villages. In terms of population, they're at most around 100,000, and the area occupied by the villages is less than 1,000th of the country they are in. If it weren't for the conflicts between the countries they belong to, both sides could live in peace and develop on their own territories. Considering the relatively backward and primitive state of development of both villages, there would be no reason for such major conflicts and wars to break out. And the only benefit that war can bring to the major ninja villages is the military funding from the daimyo. Other things, such as land, population, resources, etc., the benefits brought about by victory in war, don't have much to do with the ninja villages. Rasa's words caused the entire camp to fall into an eerie silence. Although Yahiko seems a bit clear-eyed and foolish, he's not really stupid. Living in a small country like the Land of Rain, he matured early because of hardship. With Rasa's slightest hint, he can understand Rasa's meaning. Yekura also fell into contemplation. To be honest, as a member of the Suna village's higher-ups, she wasn't incapable of thinking about these things, but the inherent mindset of a ninja made it difficult for her to step outside of her identity as a ninja to think about them. What she thought about, like Yahiko, Nagato, and Conan, was to regard herself as the leader of this war. She slightly raised her head, her bright eyes looking at Rasa, and a different kind of emotion arose in her heart. To be honest, as representatives of their respective factions, Yekura and Rasa rarely had contact in private, except for some public occasions. This led to the fact that although the two had been opposed to each other for a long time, Yekura had never really understood what kind of person Rasa was, which is why she had always been unconvinced that Rasa would become Kazekage. But after Rasa really became Kazekage, whether she was willing or not, the contact between the two began to increase. As she gradually gained a deeper understanding, Yekura also began to recognize a different Rasa, completely different from the arrogant and annoying man in Yekura's previous impression. The current Rasa began to become charming, possessing all the excellent qualities that a man should have: maturity, stability, wisdom, generosity, and a sense of security that was hard to explain. So, even if Yekura was unwilling, she had to admit that she couldn't do as well as Rasa in the position of Kazekage. This made her couldn't help but ask curiously, then, why are the daimyos so keen on starting wars? The three Yahiko, who were lost in thought, also raised their heads, glanced at Yekura in surprise, and then looked at Rasa. Rasa's answer was still simple and direct. It's very simple, because this ninja world has been in a state of unfair distribution since its birth. Everyone looked puzzled again. The land and resources in the world we are in are full of distortions. Taking our 5 major countries as an example, the most fertile land on the entire continent is occupied by the Land of Fire. Sufficient arable land allows the Land of Fire to support a huge population, which is why the Land of Fire is so rich. What about the other 4 countries? More than 80% of our Land of Wind is desert, and most of the Land of Earth is barren rocks and stone mountains. The Land of Lightning is full of various high and dangerous peaks, and the Land of Water is composed of countless small islands. The scarcity of land resources means that the other 4 countries can only obtain the resources they need through plunder, and the fertile land of the Land of Fire is a goal that the other 4 major countries cannot give up at all. Rasa's words were definitely deafening to the 4 people in front of him. At the same time, they gradually realized that, indeed, as Rasa said, this seemed to be an unsolvable dead end. So, even if you have a way to persuade the daimyo, it's useless, because the real reason for the existence of war in this world is not in people, but in the distorted distribution of land and resources. This is not something that your Akatsuki organization, or even our ninja village, can easily decide. Even if a savior appears and puts the world into a short period of peace, after the savior passes away, this ninja world will still continue to fight for resources. Having said that, Rasa had said what he could say, but the 4 people present, whether it was Yekura or the Yahiko trio, were in a state of trance, because, through Rasa's words, they could already see that no matter how long in the future, how many years, the entire ninja world would still be in a state of chaos and war. Yahiko wanted to refute something, but he also understood that what Rasa said was right. That desperate future once again deeply hit his long-held dream. He could only clench his fists tightly and ask, is there really no hope at all? No. There is still hope. Either find an enemy that can make all ninjas put aside their past grievances and face it together, so that everyone can unite and not start wars so easily, or unite all the divided countries once and for all. Yekura had naturally heard this answer from Rasa, so she wasn't too shocked, but the Yahiko trio were different. They all looked at Rasa in surprise, trying to digest the answer Rasa gave. After a long time, Yahiko finally took a long breath and said with a cheerful smile on his face, "It's really a headache, but thank you anyway, Kazekage-sama. I can feel that you are completely different from the other people I know. You are not only willing to meet us, but also willing to tell us so much." I have to say that at this moment, Rasa saw some shadows of Naruto in Yahiko again. For some reason, Rasa had a very incredible idea. Could it be that Yahiko, like Naruto, is also a reincarnation of Asura? This silly look is too similar. Speaking of which, it's also very coincidental. Judging from Yahiko's age, Yahiko was born after the death of Hashirama Senju, the reincarnation of the previous generation of Asura, and Yahiko died in the Third Shinobi World War. After Yahiko died, Naruto was also born. In addition, there is also Jiraiya's identity as the guide of the child of prophecy. As for Nagato, although judging from his identity as a member of the Uzumaki clan, he seems more like the child of prophecy, but he does not have the unique silly infectiousness of Hashirama, Yahiko, and Naruto, which seems to be more important than strength. Coincidence? Rasa didn't know, but for some reason, Rasa had a bold idea. No need to thank me. The reason why I am willing to meet you is just that I didn't expect that there would really be such fools in this ninja world. Being called a fool, but the Yahiko trio didn't look angry at all, especially Yahiko, who smiled shyly, as if Rasa was praising them. And at this moment, Rasa said something that surprised everyone. But now? I have another idea. Are you willing to join our Suna village? Rasa's idea was indeed a sudden one, and it was indeed an extremely risky approach. Not to mention, Uchiha Madara, even the hidden Black Zetsu, would probably notice Rasa's existence immediately. But this risk is controllable. Firstly, with the help of the open black lens bracket Karma close black lens bracket, Rasa is confident that his own strength will rapidly increase to a level where he can also dance in the ninja world. Secondly, understanding the plot allows him to prepare enough countermeasures for the upcoming risks. And if Rasa's invitation succeeds under controllable risk, the benefits will be enormous. Not to mention the strength of Sanagakure will be greatly improved. The entire timeline of Naruto will go in a different direction. It can be said that as long as Rasa protects Nagato's Rinnegan, or even extremely, directly destroys Uchiha Madara's eyes, then Uchiha Madara's resurrection plan will be completely in vain. Without eyes, Uchiha Madara will not be able to implement the Eye of the Moon plan, and Kagaya Otsutsuki will not be resurrected, and the ninja world can be peaceful for a while. As for the invading Otsutsuki clan, not to mention, what level will Rasa and Sanagakure's strength be improved to by then? Without Uchiha Madara's disruption, many tragedies in the entire ninja world can be avoided, and the Fourth Ninja World War can be avoided as much as possible. This means that the strength of the ninja world will also be greatly preserved. Then there is no need to fear the Otsutsuki clan even more. Although the Otsutsuki clan is indeed very strong, it has not shown to the point of despair. In Rasa's perception, don't look at Kagaya Otsutsuki being called the shame of the Otsutsuki, but Kagaya Otsutsuki, who has eaten the chakra fruit, is definitely stronger than any Otsutsuki that appeared in the subsequent Boruto, except for being a bit silly and sweet. That was an existence that Naruto and Sasuke in their prime could only seal, but could not kill. On the other hand, the other Otsutsuki, even the highly touted Ashiki Otsutsuki, could only become a sacrifice for the Otsutsuki Jinchuriki in the end. Oh right, there is also a god of Otsutsuki? Rasa doesn't know much about this god of Otsutsuki because he doesn't know much about the plot of Boruto, but he still knows about the existence of divine techniques. That is a terrible ability. However, don't forget that Rasa is also the owner of open black lens bracket Karma close black lens bracket now. Although he still doesn't know the origin of the open black lens bracket Karma close black lens bracket on his body, it gives Rasa the confidence to deal with future crises. Especially the divine techniques that are like miracles. Perhaps, one day he can also master the divine techniques that are said to possess the power of gods. Land of Birds. After sending away the Akatsuki trio, Rasa and Ebizo no longer needed to stay here. Accompanied by Maki and Yashimaru, Rasa and Yashimaru also withdrew from the camp. In the forest of the Land of Birds, the figures of the four people are constantly moving towards the direction of Sanagakure in the Land of Wind. Although Rasa has the ability to control sand to fly, how can a leader be a driver for his subordinates? Therefore, the four can only rely on the way ordinary ninjas travel. As the high-level members of the village, Rasa and Ebizo naturally walked in the front, while Maki and Yashimaru followed behind on the left and right sides, guarding the surroundings. Are you serious? In the forest, everything around is passing quickly? Ebizo's voice also sounded in Rasa's ear. What are you talking about? I mean, do you really want to invite this Akatsuki organization to join our village? Rasa didn't answer, but asked back, what do you think of these three Akatsuki children? Ebizo thought for a while and said, that Yahiko, although he looks a bit silly, is still quite likable. That girl named Conan is very beautiful and very smart. As for that Nagato, I didn't pay much attention to him. From beginning to end, he didn't seem to say a word. Yeah. Rasa nodded. Although these three children are very young, judging from the fact that they can form this organization called Akatsuki and win over so many people, they all have talents that cannot be underestimated. I see, are you showing affection for talent? Well, you should also be able to feel now that there are too few ninjas in the village who can stand alone. Besides you and Mikawa, there is basically no one around me who can be used. Elder Chiyo and Elder Ebizo are too old. If it is not necessary, I don't want them to leave their last life on the battlefield. Ebizo looked at Rasa with some surprise. She didn't expect Rasa to show such gentleness. I heard that you are preparing to let Karora come out to help too? Well, it would be a waste if Karora's talent is wasted on the identity of a housewife. However, as a husband, I can't let my wife do two dangerous things, so I can only leave her in the village. This made Ebizo's eyes brighter, and Yashimaru behind him also put on a gentle smile. Then you are not going to have children with Karora anymore? Ebizo's sudden question made Rasa turn his head in surprise, and then Rasa saw Ebizo's delicate face. Although it looked very calm, there was still some panic. Rasa's mood also inexplicably relaxed, and he said jokingly, "Of course, I have been working hard with Karora during this time." Ebizo's pretty face turned red. Rasa continued to ask, "What about you? Children are the future of the village, and you, as a Jonin of the village, can't fall behind either." Ebizo rarely showed a trace of restraint in her usual cold expression, and then glared at Rasa and said, "You should worry about your own affairs." After saying that, she jumped up, preparing to speed up and escape from Rasa's side. But at this moment, suddenly, Rasa suddenly stretched out a hand and blocked her in front. "Be careful." What? Ebizo didn't react at all. Rasa waved his hand, and countless yellow sands rose from the ground, forming a circular sand wall in front of the four, protecting the four in all directions. And at this moment, countless kunai flew out of the forest like rain. Swish! The entire sand wall was instantly covered with kunai like a needlebed. Ebizo's face was pale. Because this sneak attack was too sudden, she had no defense at all. If Rasa hadn't taken action, she would probably have been shot into a sieve by now. Maki and Yashimaru were also taken aback, and instantly moved to the left and right sides of Rasa and Ebizo to be on guard. Fortunately, after seeing that the sneak attack had lost its effect in front of Rasa's defense, the forest also became quiet again. It's just that at this moment, looking at the dark forest on the left and right, whether it is Ebizo, Maki, or Yashimaru, their faces are a bit dignified. The disappearance of the third Kazekage is still vivid in their minds, and although the three are not professional sensory ninjas, as Jonin, they all have a certain ability to sense. But looking at the forest in front of them, they couldn't feel anything. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. Yi Kang, who had almost been killed by a surprise attack, was filled with anger at this moment. Although as a ninja, life and death are common occurrences, it would be too frustrating to die so inexplicably. Who is it? Yi Kang looked angrily at the surrounding forest, but received no response. The surrounding forest was as silent as if there were no life in it. Rosa also stared at his surroundings. Just now, he had sensed a strange energy. This energy was not chakra, but natural energy like the dragon vein chakra. This was also why he was able to detect the trap in advance. But now, he can't sense the enemy's presence either. Maki, force these insects out. Yes. With Rosa's order, Maki, who was also full of anger, immediately formed hand seals. Wind release. Great breakthrough. A gust of wind burst out directly from Maki's mouth, blowing towards the forest where the kunai had just come from, and the huge wind force directly blew down a large area of trees in front of him. Just as Maki used wind release, Rosa's senses detected that familiar feeling again. At the same time, both Yi Kang and Yashimaru saw countless figures appearing in the forest as if out of thin air. They didn't look like professional ninjas, their clothes were very simple, and they held kunai in their hands. It seemed that there were 40 or 50 people. Among the entire four-person team, only Rosa saw how these people appeared because he had sensed it in advance. This is, countless purple mists gathered between the branches of the forest, forming human-shaped figures, and then turned into human flesh. Rosa could be sure that this was definitely not some kind of illusion, let alone a transformation technique, but a real, flesh body condensed from smoke. He indeed didn't sense chakra fluctuations, but sensed a natural energy like the dragon vein chakra. Interesting. At this moment, Rosa was really moved. Because this scene reminded him of the elementalization in the anime, One Piece, that he had watched. At this moment, seeing the attackers being forced out, Maki seemed to have thought of something and said, "Lord Kazekage, if I'm not mistaken, these should be ninjas from the Ibari clan." Maki's words attracted everyone's attention. Yi Kang asked with a dissatisfied face. "Ibari clan, what is that?" Maki looked coldly at these ninjas, and explained. The Ibari clan is a ninja clan within the Land of Fire. They do not belong to Konoha, but are a wandering ninja clan. The Ibari clan has a special ability called Smoke Transformation Technique, which can turn the body into smoke to achieve silent killing. Even sensory ninjas cannot detect this ability. I see. Yi Kang also understood why he was almost attacked just now. Rosa listened and asked curiously. Is it very similar to the Hazuka clan's water transformation technique in Kurigakure? Yes, Lord Kazekage, but there are also differences between the two. The Hazuka clan's water transformation technique is a secret technique, an ability that requires training to master, but the Ibari clan is different. The Ibari clan's smoke transformation technique is an ability that is mastered from birth. Therefore, the Ibari clan cannot control this talent as well as the Hazuka clan, resulting in a large number of Ibari clan ninjas dying. Besides that, Maki looked fiercely at the Ibari clan ninjas in the distance with unkind faces and said, "The Ibari clan's smoke transformation technique, like the Hazuka clan's water transformation technique, has a big weakness, that is, the Ibari clan ninjas in the smoke state are very afraid of wind release." After Maki's words were finished, the faces of the Ibari clan ninjas on the opposite side became even more ugly. Seeing this, Rosa already understood something. It seemed that this Ibari clan was somewhat similar to Jugo's ability. This made him even more interested and he stepped forward a few steps and asked, "Did Konoha send you to assassinate me?" Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Everyone was shocked, and the Ibari clan ninjas looked even more incredible. Seeing this scene, Rosa was already certain. Because from the current point of view, besides Konoha, who would go to great lengths to assassinate him, other ninja villages simply don't have that strength. He had just negotiated cooperation with Kumogakure and Iwagakure, Kurigakure had no contact, and the only one he had a grudge against was Konoha. It seems, it really is. Now, the Ibari clan ninjas were even more panicked, and then roared. "Kill them!" Instantly, all the Ibari clan ninjas turned into human-shaped purple smoke and flew towards Rosa and his group. Maki and Yashimaru were about to take action, but were stopped by Rosa. "Leave it to me." If it were ordinary ninjas, Rosa would of course not take the initiative, but Rosa was really interested in this so-called Ibari clan's smoke transformation technique. Seeing this, Maki and Yashimaru could only nod. Rosa only formed a single hand seal, the Ox seal. Magnet release, sand tentacles. Fine yellow sand began to fill the air, condensing into one, turning into sand tentacles, binding the closest Ibari clan ninjas one by one. Puchi. But these Ibari clan ninjas instantly turned into smoke and dissipated, breaking free from the sand tentacles, restraints. Obviously, they were also afraid of wind release, so after breaking free from the restraints, they recondensed into smoke humanoids, ready to transform back into flesh at any time. Interesting. Shoo. Rosa's figure instantly disappeared from the spot, and reappeared in midair, grabbing towards the air with his right hand. Bang. An Ibari clan ninja who had turned into a human-shaped smoke was directly choked by Rosa. How is it possible? This scene stunned the surrounding Ibari clan ninjas. They had to know that their clan's smoke transformation technique could completely immunize them from physical attacks. But the Ibari clan's horror had only just begun. In midair, purple chakra appeared on Rosa's right hand. The humanoid smoke instantly let out a scream, and then dissipated directly in place as if it was swallowed by the purple chakra. This scene not only frightened the Ibari clan ninjas, but even Ye Kang and the others were stunned. They never knew that their Kazekage actually had such abilities. But Rosa didn't give them time to explain. After absorbing this Ibari clan ninja through the open black lens bracket karma close black lens bracket, Rosa immediately felt a change in his body. But obviously the chakra was not enough to completely change his body. He looked at these Ibari clan ninjas with cold eyes, as if he was not looking at living people, but pieces of food. Since that's the case, 5 sealing barrier method. As the huge barrier enveloped all the Ibari clan ninjas, understanding Rosa's purpose, looked at Rosa with eyes as if they were looking at a demon. Why? This was completely different from what they had planned. Somewhere in the land of birds. In a dense forest, a group of ninjas wearing Anbu uniforms from Konoha were hiding, seemingly waiting for something. However, an hour passed, and the expected target did not appear. 3 figures slowly emerged from the shadows of the trees. Orochimaru, it seems your plan has failed. Orochimaru, dressed in a black robe that completely concealed his figure, showed no disappointment at the failure. Isn't that to be expected? Elder Danzo, he is the Kazekage after all. It would be strange if he didn't have this much vigilance. It's just a waste of those experimental materials. Danzo, with half of his face covered, looked gloomy. If we can't find out from this Kazekage who exactly leaked the secrets of Root, Orochimaru, neither you nor I will be able to rest easy. Unfortunately, Orochimaru didn't take it seriously at all. Just then, a Root ninja appeared before Danzo to report. Danzo-sama, the battle ahead has ended. What's the situation? AP. Apologies, we didn't dare to get too close to know the specifics, but the Kazekage of Sunagakur has already left. We investigated the area and it seems that all the Ibari clan ninjas are dead. Danzo frowned slightly, while Orochimaru showed a hint of interest on his face. Interesting. The Ibari clan's smoke transformation technique is a very strong escape technique, but none of them escaped. This 4th Kazekage of Sunagakur is truly interesting. The Root ninja reported. Orochimaru-sama, we saw the Kazekage use a barrier technique to trap all the Ibari clan ninjas. A barrier. Orochimaru looked thoughtful. Danzo ignored him and said. Forget it, since the mission failed, let's withdraw. I still have many things to deal with back in the village. As the Root ninjas retreated one by one, Orochimaru could only follow. However, just then, he seemed to notice something and looked up at the sky. A giant eyeball was floating in the sky. Interesting. But he said nothing, only followed Danzo away with a mysterious smile on his face. Sand Eye. One of the many sand-controlled techniques developed by the 2nd Kazekage. It is actually another application of the transformation technique. It is an ninjutsu that turns the condensed sand into an eyeball, connecting it to the field of vision of the main body's eyes for long-distance reconnaissance. By changing the size of the eyeball, the sand eye can observe movements up to 10 kilometers away. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the ability to see through, so it can only observe some obvious moving objects, and can only see a rough appearance. However, it is already enough. HMPH. It really is those two. Although he could only see a rough appearance, Danzo and Orochimaru's attire was too distinctive, and he could determine who they were without looking too closely. Yekora asked upon seeing this. Are they from Konoha? Yes, Danzo of Konoha's Root and Orochimaru. These 2 names startled everyone present. Danzo was the one designated by Rasa as the murderer of the 3rd Kazekage, and Orochimaru was one of the legendary Sannin. Then what do we do now? Yekora asked through gritted teeth. Konoha actually dared to assassinate Rasa, their Sunagakur's Kazekage, which was a huge provocation to their Sunagakur. Rasa was naturally very unhappy at this time, wishing he could rush over and take the heads of these 2 guys, but he still held back. It would be too foolish to rush over knowing it's a trap. However, this matter cannot be left like this. I was still worried about not having an excuse to declare war on Konoha, but now Konoha has taken the initiative to offer one. After speaking, he looked at Maki and ordered. Maki, immediately in my name, used this assassination attempt to formally declare war on Konoha on behalf of Tsunagaku. Tell all the ninjas in the village that this operation is different from the last one. We must make Konoha pay a bloody price. Yes. The news that Konoha's elder Danzo and one of the Sannin, Orochimaru, had failed to assassinate the Kazekage of Tsunagaku in the Land of Birds, spread throughout the ninja world, along with Tsunagaku's formal declaration of war on Konoha. After confirming that the news was correct, the third Raikage of Kumogaku and the third Tsuchikage of Iwagakure were naturally ecstatic. They were originally worried that Tsunagaku would not put in much effort in this cooperation to attack Konoha, but now they didn't have to worry at all, because assassinating the Kage of a village was the most serious diplomatic provocation in any country. Tsunagaku's reaction also did not disappoint them. After the formal declaration of war, Tsunagaku's vanguard began to quickly assemble, passing through the Land of Rivers and heading towards the border of the Land of Fire. Moreover, it was completely different from the previous sneak attack. This time, Tsunagaku was clearly serious. Because after the vanguard, countless logistical teams left Tsunagaku. This meant that Tsunagaku was not just trying to loot this time, but really wanted to fight a protracted war with Konoha. As for when the main force would be dispatched, it depended on when the cooperation between the three countries was truly signed. Land of Fire, Konoha Village. After receiving the formal declaration of war submitted by Tsunagaku, the atmosphere within Konoha also became oppressive. Danzo's actions were of course unauthorized, but at this time, the village had no way to blame Danzo. One was for the sake of unity within the village, and the other was that Tsunagaku's joining the war was inevitable. Moreover, Danzo also had his own reasons, and he did this entirely for the sake of Konoha. If he could successfully assassinate the fourth Kazekage, he could take advantage of the internal strife in Tsunagaku to make Tsunagaku unable to participate in the war. But now it was clear that saying these things was useless. Tsunagaku's participation in the war had become a certainty. Kumogaku and Iwagakure also did not miss this opportunity and began to mobilize troops on a large scale along the border, looking ready for a decisive battle. Seeing this, Danzo finally took the opportunity to state his true purpose. It's time for the nine-tailed Jinchuriki to join the war. With the power of the nine tails, we can definitely change the current situation in Konoha. Minato naturally strongly opposed it. But in the current situation, it seemed that the nine-tailed Jinchuriki joining the war was the best option. So, the Konoha high-level officials began to argue at this moment. While the Konoha high-level officials were still arguing, Rasa also returned to Tsunagaku and heard incredible news about the divine tree he had planted. The sand-covered demon desert surrounding Tsunagaku. Having returned to the village, Rasa didn't even have time to handle village affairs. He left the village and quickly flew towards the depths of the desert. Because he suddenly received a message from Maki that Fukin wanted to see him. The reason was simple: the divine tree that Rasa planted in the desert had undergone some incredible changes. At this time, only half a month had passed since Rasa planted the Dragon Vein Chakra fruit in the desert, but the Dragon Vein Chakra had already shown its incredible vitality, using the underground river beneath the desert to construct lines of green life across the vast and boundless desert. Looking down from the sky at the demon desert below, these green lifelines were like branches of a river, winding and clinging to the yellow sand. Looking closely, these green lifelines were composed of various plants. Not only were there common desert plants, but also some plants that only grow in other countries. The reason was simple: Tsunagaku's underground rivers all originated from countries with abundant rainfall, such as the Land of Birds, the Land of Rivers, and the Land of Rain. While flowing underground through the Land of Wind, they also brought the seeds of some plants from these countries, which then encountered the enormous vitality of the Dragon Vein Chakra and began to quickly take root and sprout. This was obviously a good thing for Tsunagaku, and it was in line with Rasa's initial idea. At this rate, after more than 10 years of nurturing by the Dragon Vein Chakra, turning this desert into an oasis suitable for human habitation should not be difficult. In that case, Tsunagaku would no longer have to be troubled by the barren environment. The remaining question was whether the Dragon Vein Chakra could also have such a transformative effect on human physique. With this thought in mind, before long, Rasa arrived at the end of this green lifeline. However, the scene that appeared before him once again shocked Rasa. You should know that since Rasa planted the dragon vein chakra fruit here and it became the divine tree, except for these 3 days when he left the village for the three-cage summit, he would come back to take a look every day, no matter how busy he was with village affairs, hoping that the divine tree would have some changes. Therefore, he considered himself very familiar with this place. 3 days ago, this place was just like an ordinary desert oasis, with low shrubs and grasses, but in just 3 days, a forest like the fertile land of the Land of Fire had appeared here. Although the area was not large, only about the size of a soccer field, it was enough to surprise Rasa. Could this be the change that Fukin was talking about? With that, Rasa controlled the sand gold and descended from the sky, arriving at the very center of the forest. In the middle of the 4 giant statues of the dragon vein seal, a lush, towering tree stood tall. And around this seal, there was a small stone house where Fukin lived, guarding everything here. What's going on? Landing on the ground, Rasa curiously looked around. Sensing Rasa's arrival, Fukin had already walked out of his stone house to greet him. Is this the surprise you were talking about? Elder Fukin. Now that he had become an elder of the village, Rasa's address had also changed. Obviously, Fukin's life had been good these past few days, and his complexion had improved a lot. He no longer had the appearance of someone who wouldn't live much longer from their first meeting, and he looked very energetic. Listening to Rasa's curious question, Fukin also put his hands together in amazement and said, "Yes, Lord Kazekage, but this is only one of the surprises." One of the surprises. That's right, Lord Kazekage, please take a closer look at this divine tree. Can you see anything strange about it? Quote question mark question mark question mark quote. Rasa was stunned and carefully looked at the divine tree. To be honest, at first glance, he didn't see anything strange, except that it seemed to have grown taller and bigger, but soon, his pupils suddenly shrank, and his face was full of disbelief. Because he saw it, among the dense branches and leaves of this divine tree. He didn't know when, but a strangely shaped fruit had appeared. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Rasa was stunned for a moment, his mind a little unable to process it. In fact, if it weren't for the fact that he had already adapted to the identity of the Kazekage and his emotions had become less easily fluctuating, he should have blurted out a curse word at this time. Because he was too familiar with this strangely shaped fruit. Isn't this the shape of the magnet fruit from another anime, One Piece? Could it be that he really walked onto the wrong set? Is this not Naruto, but One Piece? Rasa was a little dazed. Not knowing what was happening, he could only ask Fukin. What's going on? Elder Fukin. Fukin put his hands together and said with a strange expression. Reporting to Lord Kazekage, I don't know either. If it weren't for Shukaku's reminder, I wouldn't have noticed the existence of this fruit. Shukaku's reminder. Yes, as a tailed beast living in the desert, Shukaku is very sensitive to changes in the surrounding natural environment. Just 3 days ago, on the night you left the village, Lord Kazekage, I was resting in the house when suddenly Shukaku's voice rang in my mind. It told me that some changes had occurred outside, and then, after I went out, I saw the changes here in the appearance of this strange fruit. Quote. Rasa frowned slightly, fell into thought, and asked after thinking for a while. Did Shukaku tell you anything else? Fukin nodded. Shukaku also told me that the magical divine tree planted by Lord Kazekage is emitting a very strange chakra, and it is using this chakra to nourish the land. Nourish the land. Rasa was now completely stunned, and countless thoughts arose in his mind. Although this was indeed Rasa's purpose, to use the natural energy of the dragon vein chakra to change the environment of this desert, since the dragon vein chakra fruit became a tree, Rasa was very worried about one thing, that his divine tree might be the kind of divine tree of the Otsutsuki clan. Because the essence of the Otsutsuki clan's divine tree is a tool for the Otsutsuki clan to absorb the energy of the planet it's on, the 10 tails. Could this be the real reason for the existence of the open black lens bracket karma close black lens bracket on the palm of his right hand? Is it to let himself nurture a new 10 tails for the Otsutsuki clan? Although Rasa was a transmigrator, compared to the Otsutsuki clan, his identity was that of a native of this planet. He didn't want this ninja world to become nourishment for the evolution of the Otsutsuki clan. But now, Shukaku told him that this divine tree was not absorbing the chakra of this world, but was nourishing the land instead, which really made it a little difficult for him to understand. Could it be because the roots of this divine tree were controlled by Rasa in the black tea cauldron, or was he really overthinking things? Just as Rasa was a little confused, suddenly, a somewhat deep female voice rang in his mind. Chakra, chakra. Who? Rasa was suddenly startled, then looked around. This startled Bunpuku, who was next to him. What's wrong? Kazekage, what happened? Rasa reacted quickly, immediately asking Bunpuku. Did you hear any sound just now? Bunpuku looked at Rasa with suspicion, shaking his head. Reporting to Kazekage, I didn't hear anything just now. Rasa seemed to understand something, looking at the divine tree in front of him with some surprise, but he still asked, not entirely sure. What about Shukaku? Bunpuku was startled, then narrowed his eyes, obviously communicating with Shukaku. After a while, he opened his eyes and said. Reporting to Kazekage, Shukaku didn't either. Is that so? Rasa frowned slightly, his gaze once again falling on the divine tree in front of him. The answer was now very clear. The sound just now should have been made by the divine tree in front of him. In other words, the divine tree in front of him actually had its own consciousness and was asking him for chakra. This made Rasa's heart rise once again. Because this once again confirmed that the divine tree in front of him seemed to have an inseparable relationship with the 10 tails of the Otsutsuki clan. Moreover, this seemed to be a woman's voice. Could it be Kagaya Otsutsuki? In other words, the open black lens bracket karma close black lens bracket on his right hand came from Kagaya Otsutsuki. Was he going to become a woman like Madara Uchiha in the future? Absolutely not. Quote. At this moment, Rasa fell into deep thought. The changes in the divine tree in front of him caught him somewhat off guard, but he also understood that this seemed to be an opportunity, not only to help him figure out whether the divine tree in front of him was the 10 tails, but also to let him understand what relationship the open black lens bracket karma close black lens bracket in his hand had with Kagaya Otsutsuki. It seemed like he had to take a gamble. So what if it was really Kagaya Otsutsuki? At this point in time, her main body was sealed on the moon and could not be revived. At that time, she would still have to beg him. Thinking of this, he quickly made up his mind. Elder Bunpuku. Quote. Next, I will inject my chakra into this divine tree. If you find anything wrong with me, immediately separate me from this divine tree. Looking at Rasa's serious eyes, Bunpuku, although somewhat suspicious, still nodded heavily. I understand, leave it to me, Kazekage. Yes. Only then did Rasa feel relieved. Rasa could rest assured about Bunpuku's character, there was no need to worry about being backstabbed. Thinking of this, he slowly passed through the huge statue, came to the very center of the seal, in front of the divine tree, as thick as 3 people could hug, hesitated for a while, and then placed the palm of his right hand, imprinted with open black lens bracket karma close black lens bracket, on the tree trunk. Logically speaking, he didn't need to take this risk. He could use other chakra to experiment, such as Shukaku next to him, but in order to figure out what this divine tree was all about, he decided to go himself. So, on Rasa's right hand, a soft light of chakra began to emanate. Unsurprisingly, after these chakras came into contact with the trunk of the divine tree, they were quickly absorbed like a sponge meeting water. This scene not only surprised Rasa, but also made Bunpuku widen his eyes. However, as time passed, Rasa was somewhat disappointed. Because other than his chakra being absorbed by this divine tree, nothing else seemed to happen. Just as Rasa was feeling a little strange, that feminine voice rang in his ears again. Chakra, chakra. For some reason, although this voice didn't seem to have changed, Rasa felt a different emotion. That was that the chakra Rasa transmitted to her was not enough at all. This made Rasa frown once again. If this were the past, with Rasa's cautious personality, he would never have continued to take risks, but the gentleness shown by the divine tree in front of him during the process of absorbing chakra, without the invasiveness of the 10 tails in the plot, still made him decide to try again. Do you want more chakra? Since that's the case, I'll give it to you. Let me see what you are. Thinking of this, Rasa directly activated the star release chakra mode. A huge amount of chakra erupted from Rasa's body, and a light blue chakra coat also appeared around Rasa's body, like a surging river, quickly absorbed by the divine tree in front of him. Then, time suddenly stood still. As if trapped in a genjutsu, Rasa found that the surrounding world began to change rapidly. Everything in front of him seemed to be rapidly receding, and space-time was distorted into straight lines. Fortunately, Rasa did not feel any discomfort. This allowed him to temporarily stabilize his mentality and see what this was all about. And when the entire world stopped changing, Rasa felt that everything around him had disappeared. Time, space, light, sound, all that remained was a dark and empty world. As if in the boundless starry sky, terrifyingly quiet. Even Rasa, because of his identity as a transmigrator, had a big heart about many existences in this world and was very adaptable to many changes, felt a huge sense of loneliness at this moment. And just as Rasa was wondering what was going on, a light appeared behind him. He couldn't help but look back, and then he saw an incredible scene. A huge green Rasengan appeared in front of him. Quote? Yes, a huge green Rasengan. Rasa could feel a powerful energy that he had never sensed before rapidly flowing within it. This was definitely not chakra, there was a bit of natural energy, but it wasn't exactly the same. Rasa thought for a while, slowly reached out his hand, and gently touched it, immediately feeling a warm, gentle energy filled with vast vitality enter his body. Rasa was stunned. He hadn't reacted yet. This huge Rasengan rotated even faster, as if time was accelerating. The huge Rasengan also began to change. As if life was evolving. In this rapid rotation of the green Rasengan, its surface began to show land, ocean, clouds, and then various plants, animals, and humans also began to appear. Eventually, it turned into a beautiful and pretty blue planet. Seeing this scene, Rasa inexplicably had an idea. Could it be that the source of the mysterious voice just now was the world consciousness described in many myths? And the next scene seemed to verify Rasa's guess. On the planet where humans and animals lived in harmony. Suddenly, a meteor fell from the sky. This scene was also somewhat familiar to Rasa. Wasn't this the scene when the Otsutsuki clan descended? Sure enough, after the explosion of the meteor falling from the sky, a towering tree appeared on this planet. Very similar to the divine tree that Rasa planted with dragon vein chakra. And as the divine tree appeared, a crimson color representing ominousness began to spread from the place where the divine tree was located, centered on the divine tree, towards the entire planet. In the end, this beautiful blue planet became completely scarlet. Then, an eye that was incomparably familiar to Rasa was reflected on this blue planet. That was the Rinne Sharingan with 9 tomo. Kagaya Otsutsuki's eyes. And with the appearance of this eye, the blue planet in front of him seemed to have fallen into a state of chaos and violence. Rasa's eyes, at this moment, penetrated the blue planet in front of him. The interior of this blue planet. The warm, gentle green energy that originally evolved this blue planet, after being polluted by the power of this Otsutsuki, began to become violent and began to split. Eventually the green energy split into dozens of smaller points, energy balls of different colors, and countless energies like a net scattered in the air. These energies all emitted a completely different aura from the green energy. The largest of these was a deep blue giant energy ball. On this energy ball, Rasa finally felt a familiar aura. Chakra. Emitting a violent, ominous, and cold aura. In the face of an evil woman. Kagaya. Rasa's heart tightened. The remaining 3 large balls were deep red, deep green, and light blue respectively. Rasa felt the same aura as the toads of Mount Myoboku. As for the remaining dozens of smaller balls and scattered energy, they were also of various colors, but on one of the small balls, Rasa noticed a familiar feeling. Dragon vein chakra. Following that, the changes on this planet became somewhat familiar to Rasa. Kagaya Otsutsuki was sealed, the moon appeared, and the god tree disappeared. The powerful force of chakra was passed down to the humans of this world by the Sage of 6 Paths in the form of Ninshu. Then, the humans of this world entered a chaotic warring states period dominated by samurai. To Rasa, the familiar layout of the ninja world appeared. The land of wind, the land of fire, the land of lightning, the land of earth, the land of water, the land of rain, the land of rivers, and so on, all came into view. Looking at the location of the land of wind, Rasa finally understood why the land of wind was so barren. Because the location of the land of wind was actually the location where the god tree appeared when Kagaya Otsutsuki descended. The god tree absorbed the energy of this land, turning the land of wind, which was originally a dense forest like the land of fire, into large expanses of desert. As time passed, ninjas replaced samurai, becoming the dominant force in the wars of this world. The familiar Hidden Sand Village, Hidden Leaf Village, Hidden Cloud Village, Hidden Stone Village, Hidden Mist Village, Hidden Rain Village, and so on, began to be established one by one. One ninja world war after another erupted. Just as this world was plunged into chaos. Unexpectedly, another meteor fell from the sky. He thought it was another member of the Otsutsuki clan descending upon this world, but when the place where the meteor landed turned into a small, glowing figure, Rasa was completely stunned. Because Rasa clearly saw that this figure was himself. Then, an incredibly unbelievable scene occurred. Rasa, this soul from another world, seemed to have a cleansing effect. The chakra within the original Rasa's body, after being occupied by the transmigrator, had its tainted power cleansed, and the chakra returned to the green energy it was at the beginning of the world. However, this energy did not seem to last long. The new chakra appeared and began to squeeze their space for existence, trying to contaminate them. Then, this energy began to converge, eventually gathering in Rasa's palm, forming a black rhombus mark. At this moment, Rasa finally understood where the open black lens bracket karma close black lens bracket on his hand came from. All of this inexplicably reminded Rasa of some settings in the games he used to play, ancient gods and outer gods. The so-called ancient gods are the native gods existing within a world. The so-called outer gods are the gods from outside the world. Clearly, what Rasa was seeing now should be a power similar to the ancient gods of this world, contaminated by the power of the outer god from an alien planet, the Otsutsuki clan. And Rasa, the soul of this transmigrator, possessed the power to purify this contamination. The next scene also confirmed Rasa's conjecture and, at the same time, resolved some of the doubts in Rasa's mind. An exclamation mark appeared on the little Rasa's head. Just like in the games he had played, when encountering an NPC with a quest to issue. It seemed that this consciousness, similar to an ancient god, indeed had the ability to probe Rasa's memories and thoughts. This also explained why the magnet release fruit appeared. It should have probed some memories of One Piece from Rasa's mind. Next was what Rasa had done in the months since he came to this world. As the open black lens bracket karma close black lens bracket absorbed the chakra of Shukaku, the chakra of the star, and the chakra of the dragon vein, the Otsutsuki power within these energies was purified, and the green energy in Rasa's body continued to grow stronger, finally able to contend with chakra. At this time, Rasa planted the fruit of the dragon vein chakra on the desert. The new seeds of green energy were replanted into this world. Centered on the god tree formed by these green seeds, the dragon vein chakra within this world began to be purified. Until 3 days ago, this purification was completely finished. The energy ball that originally represented the dragon vein chakra was completely transformed into green energy. At the same time, the magnet release fruit, identical to the one in the One Piece world, also appeared on the god tree. Then, this figure of Rasa plucked the magnet release fruit and ate it, and the exclamation mark above his head disappeared. Just like completing a task and receiving a reward in a game. Interesting. Rasa understood the meaning of this consciousness. It wanted to make a deal with him, to have Rasa help purify those powers contaminated by the Otsutsuki, and as a reward, it would grant Rasa powers similar to the devil fruits of One Piece. However, this deal seemed a bit of a loss for him. He could obtain the same power simply by using the power of open black lens bracket karma close black lens bracket. He didn't necessarily need these chakra fruits. As a transmigrator, Rasa didn't care about the right or wrong, the good or evil of power. Only useful power is good power. He just didn't know if these chakra fruits were any different from his own bloodline limit. Did they really possess the same powers as the devil fruits in One Piece? At the very moment Rasa had this thought, suddenly, the surrounding world changed once again, and Rasa's figure fell directly from space. At the same time, a voice echoed in his ears. He suddenly woke up, and everything before his eyes instantly returned to normal. He found himself back beside the god tree, his right hand resting on the god tree, and he was more exhausted than ever before. Fukusaku's voice still echoed in his ears. Rasa steadied himself and raised his right hand. "Don't worry, I'm fine." This also put Fukusaku at ease, but there was still some worry in his eyes. Was Rasa really okay? Of course not. Because at this moment, he discovered something that made him frown. The chakra throughout his body had disappeared. Not the feeling of being completely absorbed, but that his body could no longer produce even a trace of chakra. This left Rasa somewhat bewildered. Just as he was a little confused. Suddenly, an energy filled with incredible vitality appeared in his perception. The power of this energy far exceeded the various chakras and natural energies he currently perceived. And this energy was so familiar. It was the green energy at the beginning of the world that he had just seen in the world of Genjutsu. Rasa seemed to understand the meaning of this consciousness. It wanted Rasa to use this green energy to replace chakra from now on. Feeling the powerful vitality contained in this energy. This seemed like a good choice. But even so, he still frowned. This action of taking away the power of chakra in his body without his consent was a bit too rude. As if to compensate Rasa, the branches and leaves of the god tree above his head began to sway. A fruit that looked like a cactus appeared. This was the sand fruit. Dash 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 dash. Hidden Sand Village, Kazekage Office. After more than 2 months, Rasa, as the Kazekage, was once again late for the village's important meeting. However, this time, the people in the conference room had no complaints. After these 2 months of getting along and fighting together, everyone began to gradually recognize Rasa as the Kazekage. In addition, the appearance of 2 women here made the atmosphere of the entire office relatively relaxed. One of them was Karura, Rasa's wife, and the other was Queen Shindo of Rorin. They were here on Rasa's orders. As the saying goes, 3 women make a drama. Because of her personality, Karura still had a very good reputation in the village. Even Ebizo, who had previously harbored resentment towards Rasa, couldn't say anything bad about Karura, let alone Chio. As for Shindo, in the past few days, with Karura's help, the people of Rorin had gradually moved into Hidden Sand Village. For the future of her people, although she was an outsider, she was also trying to integrate into the women's chat. With Karura's introductions, and Chio and Ebizo understood that Rasa must have his arrangements for Shindo's appearance here, so they were very polite to Shindo, and everyone chatted casually. After waiting for more than an hour, familiar footsteps came from outside. The Kazekage has arrived. As Rasa, wearing the Kazekage robes, walked into the Kazekage office, the Hidden Sand Village's high-level officials, including Karura, were all slightly startled, because they all felt that something seemed to have changed in Rasa. In this ninja world where chakra is used as power, almost all ninjas' strength is from the inside out, quite bare and undisguised. This is determined by the characteristics of chakra as an energy. It is condensed from the spiritual and physical strength within a ninja's body, running and storing in the ninja's body in a very simple way, and finally released through ninjutsu. Therefore, most ninjas with some sensory abilities can sense the chakra within their opponents to judge their strength. For example, when facing Rasa, the Kazekage, the Jonin in the village, even if Rasa doesn't make a move, can faintly sense the surging chakra within Rasa's body, feeling the power of Rasa, the Kazekage. Not to mention the Sand Village high-level officials who are currently in the Kazekage's office. Chiyo, Ebizo, Pakura, Mikawa, and even Karura, who is his wife. They are all ninjas with the power to fight against 100, even 1,000, or 10,000 enemies, and their sensory abilities are even more outstanding. But at this moment, looking at Rasa who appeared in front of them, the few people present suddenly had a strange feeling. Clearly, Rasa, the Kazekage, is sitting in front of them, but their senses are sending a feeling of emptiness, as if there is nothing in front of them. Or, to put it another way, the person sitting in the Kazekage's seat is an ordinary person who doesn't possess a trace of chakra. Is this possible? Of course, this is impossible. In addition, there is the matter of Rasa being an hour late for this meeting. Then, there is only one explanation. Something happened to Rasa that even they don't know about, making them unable to sense the chakra within Rasa's body. So, at this moment, everyone is looking at Rasa sitting in the Kazekage's seat with surprised eyes. But whether it is Chiyo, Ebizo, or Pakura, Mikawa, none of them asked more questions at this moment. Because from the last surprise attack on the Fire Country plan to now, Rasa, the Kazekage, has brought everyone too many surprises. In fact, it is not only these people who are surprised at this time, Rasa himself is also very surprised by the changes in his body. After a short hour of trying and familiarizing himself, Rasa can be considered to have simply understood the changes in his body. In general, the current Rasa can no longer refine and use chakra. This means that he cannot use all ninjutsu and bloodline limits related to chakra. However, as a substitute, he can now directly absorb and store senjutsu energy from nature as his source of power. Yes, senjutsu energy. This is the new name Rasa has given to the original green energy of this world. At the same time, as a substitute for his bloodline limit, sand control technique, and smoke transformation technique, Rasa ate the 2 chakra fruits from the divine tree, the magnetism fruit and the sand fruit, and reacquired another kind of power. Rasa calls it senjutsu limit. That is, a bloodline limit that uses senjutsu energy. After eating these 2 chakra fruits, Rasa reacquired senjutsu limit magnet release and senjutsu limit sand control. To be honest, the current Rasa cannot be sure whether he has become stronger or weaker. Although after trying to use senjutsu limit magnet release and senjutsu limit sand control, Rasa feels that these 2 new powers of his are indeed stronger than the original bloodline limit. First of all, he no longer needs to refine chakra or condense 2 different attribute chakras to create a nature transformation to generate magnetism and control the gold dust, but instead eliminates all the processes, allowing Rasa's senjutsu energy to have its own magnetism. This not only saves Rasa the effort of condensing chakra and consumes less energy, but it is also more convenient to control, and it also increases the range of metals he can control. Now he is not only controlling gold dust, but he can also control the iron sand that the 3rd Kazekage was proud of. Secondly, senjutsu limit sand control also provides abilities similar to elementalization, allowing the current Rasa to ignore most of the taijutsu in this world, making up for his shortcomings in taijutsu. Finally, because senjutsu energy is different from chakra, Rasa found that ordinary genjutsu can no longer work on him, which makes up for his weakest aspect of genjutsu, but he cannot be sure whether he can resist pupil techniques like the Sharingan. However, the senjutsu energy does not only bring benefits but also disadvantages. The most troublesome thing is that all the 5 elements release, sealing techniques, and body flicker technique that he is familiar with can no longer be used. This makes Rasa a little unaccustomed, and he has lost many countermeasures in battle, and can only rely on the power of the 2 senjutsu limits. Secondly, this is the world of ninjas, and the ninjutsu of this world, under the restraint of the natural 5 elements, still has some ninjutsu that can restrain his elementalization. Fortunately, as the basic attributes possessed by energy, the cursed seal power in Shukaku's chakra, and the abilities of inorganic reanimation, matter transformation, super speed self-healing, and chakra absorption in the dragon vein chakra have been retained by the senjutsu energy. He can use these abilities to indirectly erase this restraint. It is a pity that the power of star release chakra has completely disappeared. This means that apart from Pakura, Mikawa, Maki, and Yashimaru, star release chakra mode has become a swan song. However, overall, Rasa still feels that he has become stronger. Because no matter what world you are in, physical fitness is the most important thing, and the powerful vitality of senjutsu energy can nourish the body like the spiritual energy in Shenshia novels, constantly enhancing Rasa's physical fitness. As everyone knows, the ninjas in the Naruto world are a profession with high attack and high health, but low defense. Under the nourishment of senjutsu energy, which has such a powerful vitality, Rasa does not seek to have the perverted physical fitness of the steel balloon in the One Piece world, invulnerable to swords and guns, but he can still hope to become a Senju Hashirama-like Senju body. In addition, if you want to deal with the Otsutsuki clan that will appear in the future using the power of chakra, it is obviously unrealistic. Using chakra to deal with the Otsutsuki clan is completely like a meat bun hitting a dog, never to return. Now it is different with senjutsu energy. This gives him the confidence to face the Otsutsuki clan in the future. Finally, there is one more point that I don't know if it is good or bad. That is, the upper limit of senjutsu energy that Rasa can store in his body now is only half of the original chakra. Although Rasa can restore his own senjutsu energy by absorbing senjutsu energy from nature, the senjutsu energy in this world has just recovered. Except for the places where the divine tree is located, which are relatively rich, any other place in the ninja world is relatively barren, and the recovery speed is very slow. Fortunately, as Rasa continues to use open black lens bracket karma close black lens bracket to plunder the chakra of this world and turn it into senjutsu energy, the senjutsu energy of the entire world can become rich again. It's just that, as a transmigrator, Rasa certainly doesn't want his power to be borrowed from external objects. After all, one's own strength is the real strength. Then, there is only one way to think of breaking through the limitations of the body, so that your body can store more senjutsu energy. Improving physical fitness through open black lens bracket karma close black lens bracket seems to be the most direct way. But Rasa is more willing to rely on himself. Because the divine tree's practice of plundering his chakra without asking his opinion at all made him a little unhappy. There is only one way in his mind now. That is, he may be able to use senjutsu energy as the spiritual energy in Shenshia novels to cultivate. However, this is a matter for the future. Now that the war is coming, we must first deal with the affairs of the village before we have the spare time to cultivate. Thinking of this, he also tapped the table lightly, shifting everyone's attention from surprise, and said, "I'm really sorry, something was delayed, so let's start talking about business now. First of all, I want to announce something." Rasa's gaze swept over the people in the office, finally landing on Shinga. Everyone should already know about the people of Loran joining our sand village. Although we can't hold a welcome ceremony for the people of Loran because of the upcoming war, I hope that everyone can guide the villagers to accept their arrival. Besides, Shinga, as the former queen of Loran, has extraordinary abilities in governing the country. It would be a pity to waste such talent. I want Shinga to join the village's high-level leadership. Hearing this, Shinga's eyes flashed with surprise, then turned to joy. If she could become a high-level member of the Sand Village, it would be very helpful for her people to integrate into the Sand Village. However, Rasa's words made the other village elders present frown slightly. Firstly, as a village that is not very large, there are only so many high-level positions in the Sand Village. Someone going up will definitely affect the interests of others. Secondly, Shinga is not a powerful female ninja. Although she can control a little of the dragon vein chakra's power, she is still an ordinary woman with no strength to even truss a chicken. In a ninja village, there is still a clear gap between ninjas and ordinary people. It is difficult for non-ninjas to climb to too high a position. Even if she was once the queen of a small country. Fortunately, Rasa at this time is no longer the Rasa from 2 months ago. Especially after the success of the Three-Cage Summit, Rasa's prestige in the village has increased a lot. So, after Rasa's words fell, everyone looked at each other, and no one took the initiative to speak. Mi Chuan, from the noble faction, thought for a while and asked, "Kazekage, which position are you planning to arrange for Ms. Shinga?" Rasa didn't force it too much, and he had already prepared to arrange Shinga to a high position, saying, Well, for now, stay in my office as an assistant to help me handle some of the village's affairs. After understanding the village, we'll see which position is suitable. Shinga, what do you think? Of course, Shinga would not refuse. As a member of the village, as long as I can serve the village, any position is fine. Since it was just the Kazekage's assistant, such a personal position, no one had any objections. Very good, then starting now, Shinga, you need to slowly understand the village. Karura will help you. Karura nodded gently and happily to her husband and Shinga. With Shinga's matter arranged, it was time to start talking about the war. Regarding the news of officially starting a war with Konoha, the Sand Village was actually prepared, so there was no need to say anything more, just proceed according to the plan. However, after Rasa made specific arrangements, the people present felt a little different. That was that Rasa seemed to be really angry this time. Everyone quickly understood the reason. Konoha is underestimating our Sand Village too much. Konoha hasn't given us an explanation for the third Hokage's death, and now they're assassinating me again. I think it's time to give Konoha a memorable lesson. Everyone nodded in agreement. After all, assassinating the Kazekage was simply slapping all the ninjas of the Sand Village in the face. Kazekage, what are you planning to do? Ebizo nodded and asked calmly. Rasa's words were shocking. It's very simple. This time I want to try to see if I can annihilate all the Konoha ninjas who come to fight our Sand Village. At this moment, everyone, including Karura, stared wide-eyed in surprise, their mouths slightly open, not knowing what to say. Only Shinga didn't quite understand the meaning of Rasa's words, looking bewildered. Because Rasa's appetite was too big. The ninjas of the Sand Village had thought about annihilating Konoha ninjas before, but counting the conflicts between the Sand Village and Konoha over the years, there had never been a successful one. This kind of thing, can it really be done? Facing Mi Chuan and Ebizo's surprise, Yekora asked directly. What is your plan? Seeing this, Rasa looked at Shinga and said. Next, you must remember everything I say and remind me at any time. Shinga nodded nervously, and Karura gently found her a notebook. Only then did Rasa look at the people present and say. First of all, I will call this operation the Konoha Annihilation Plan. The confidentiality specifications of this operation are even stricter than the last surprise attack on the Land of Fire. Everything I say in this conference room today, except for everyone present, is not allowed to be disclosed to anyone. Once discovered, it will be dealt with as a village traitor. You only need to let them understand what they should do. During the last surprise attack on the Land of Fire, Rasa did not have the prestige to order everyone like this. Everyone also understood the seriousness of this operation and nodded. This Konoha Annihilation Plan, to sum it up, is to make Konoha relax its vigilance through a series of actions, gradually fall into the trap we have prepared, and finally annihilate them in one fell swoop, completely hurting Konoha. In order to achieve this goal, this plan is divided into 3 steps. First step, I call it the Paralysis Plan. According to the original plan, Yekora and Mi Chuan will each lead 800 ninjas to enter the Land of Rivers and fight with Konoha ninjas. I will give you absolute freedom, and the battle plan can also be determined by you. I only have one requirement, that is, neither win nor lose. Neither win nor lose. Both of them were stunned, not understanding what Rasa meant. Rasa explained. Just like our last surprise attack on the Land of Fire, you must give the Konoha ninjas the illusion that we don't really want to start a war with them, but are delaying time. Yekora's eyes lit up. I see, but will Konoha, who has already been fooled once, be fooled again? That's the second step of the plan. I call it the Peace of Mind Plan. During this stage, I will leak some of our cooperation content with the Hidden Cloud Village and the Hidden Stone Village. Even, if necessary, we can also release some false information. The eyes of everyone present lit up. Mi Chuan nodded and praised. Good idea. In any case, Konoha definitely doesn't want to invest too much force in the battle with our Sand Village now. In this way, they will not only relax their vigilance, but also have much fewer troops. Yekora also nodded and said. However, even so, it won't be easy to annihilate the Konoha ninjas. With the ninjas' ability to go to heaven and earth and their intelligence capabilities, even if the Konoha ninjas' troops become fewer, it will be difficult to annihilate them. Hearing this, Rasa also said with some anticipation in his eyes. That's the third step of the plan. I call it the bait plan. Bait. But to implement this plan, we need a little luck. Luck. Rasa's meaningful voice stunned everyone present. Just then, with a knock on the door of the Kazekage's office was pushed open, and Maki walked in under everyone's gaze, respectfully saying. Reporting, Kazekage-sama, news from the Vanguard unit, the commander of the Konoha ninja squad that is dealing with our sand village this time is Danzo. Oh, it seems that even luck is on our sand village's side. At this moment, everyone in the office could feel the joy in Rasa's words. However, the information was not finished yet, Maki continued. There is also news that the Uchiha clan has also joined the war. Since the death of Uchiha Kagami, the only Uchiha clan member who had been able to enter the upper echelons of Konoha after the Second Shinobi World War, the Uchiha clan's position in Konoha had become increasingly isolated. This isolation stemmed partly from Konoha's suppression of the Uchiha clan. On the other hand, it also originated from the Uchiha clan's pride as the leading clan in the shinobi world after the decline of the Senju clan. Because of this pride, most members of the Uchiha clan prioritized the interests of their clan above those of the village. This led to a severe consequence: the Uchiha clan did not readily obey the village's orders. This was intolerable to the higher-ups of any village. Take this shinobi world war as an example. The war had been going on for months, but Uchiha clan ninjas were rarely seen on the battlefield. There were even rumors that the Uchiha clan was waiting for the village to be defeated on the battlefield so they could launch a coup while the village was weak. This rumor instantly dissipated the little support the Uchiha clan had gained in the village due to Elder Danzo's unauthorized research on the Sharingan. Instead, as the rumors intensified, the Uchiha clan, clearly the victims, became the perpetrators in the village and were subjected to even stricter surveillance. This caused the Uchiha clan's dissatisfaction with the village to reach its peak, making it even less likely for them to participate in the war. But at this moment, an event occurred that changed the Uchiha clan. Namikaze Minato paid a visit to the Uchiha clan's leader, Uchiha Fugaku. No one knows what they discussed. However, after that meeting, Uchiha Fugaku, despite the dissatisfaction of many in the clan, issued the order for the Uchiha clan to join the war. Although the Uchiha clan, as the leading clan in the shinobi world, had complex internal factions and not everyone obeyed their leader's orders, as the clan head, he still had many clan members following him, and they included many powerful ninjas. Thus, the participation of the leading clan in the shinobi world instantly relieved the immense pressure on Konoha on the battlefield. The land of rivers, located between the land of fire and the land of wind. Just like its name, many rivers exist on the country's land. Some of them still flow with river water, but some have dried up. These dried up riverbeds have become natural hiding places. Since the Hidden Sand Village declared war on Konoha, both Hidden Sand Village ninjas and Konoha ninjas have been using the concealment of these riverbeds to deploy troops and transport supplies. At this time, 7 days had passed since the Hidden Sand Village officially declared war on Konoha. In these 7 days, countless conflicts had erupted between the Hidden Sand Village and Konoha on the land of rivers, but discerning people could see that the Hidden Sand Village did not seem to intend to truly go to war with Konoha. However, even so, it still tied up a portion of Konoha's main force in the land of rivers, which gave the Hidden Cloud Village and the Hidden Rock Village the opportunity to see victory and begin a large-scale invasion of the land of fire. Unlike the Hidden Sand Village, which was still fighting Konoha in the land of rivers. In just 7 days, the war-loving Hidden Cloud Village had already reached the heart of the land of fire, and the Hidden Rock Village, taking advantage of the chaos, had also seized the opportunity to attack and occupy 1/3 of the land of fire's territory. The entire situation in the Land of Fire was precarious. Dash 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 dash. Land of Rivers, inside a dried-up riverbed. A team from Konoha, transporting supplies, was slowly moving forward. Hurry, we must reach the camp by night. The ninja shouting the order was from the Aburame clan, named Aburame Fu, a Jonin, wearing the Aburame clan's signature robe and sunglasses. He was the captain in charge of escorting the logistics supplies this time. Yes, the team's speed increased a little, but not by much. Most of those transporting logistics supplies were ordinary people. They didn't have the ability to fly into the sky or burrow into the ground like ninjas. Seeing that urging them was not very effective, Aburame Fu also came to the very center of the team. Here, 3 ninjas wearing the Uchiha clan's attire were following. Unlike most Uchiha clan ninjas in the village, who were arrogant and aloof, the eyes of these 3 Uchiha clan members were relatively gentle. Plus, with Minato's instructions, Aburame Fu tried to be as gentle as possible, asking the youngest-looking child in the middle of the 3. Shisui, how is the feeling of the battlefield? Can you hold on? As he spoke, Aburame Fu felt somewhat emotional. He was clearly just an 8-year-old child. If he were in the ninja academy, he would probably just be starting school, but he already possessed the strength of a genin. As expected of the Uchiha clan's genius boy. However, sending such a child to the battlefield was indeed somewhat cruel, but Konoha had no other choice now. The pressure from the 3 fronts was overwhelming Konoha. Unlike Aburame Fu's inner musings, Uchiha Shisui, who was leaving the village for the first time, revealed a hint of excitement on his young face, saying gently, "Don't worry, Senior Fu, I'm fine. I also want to do my part for the village." Ha ha ha, doing your part is secondary. The most important thing for you now is to protect yourself. After saying that, he nodded to the 2 Chunin from the Uchiha clan beside him. Thank you both. The 2 Uchiha clan members nodded with complex expressions. Just like that, the team continued forward. Uchiha Shisui observed the towering riverbanks on both sides, asking curiously, "Senior Fu, why are we taking this route? If enemies attack us from both sides of the riverbank, it seems like we'll be trapped here and become very passive." Aburame Fu said with a look of admiration. As expected of the Uchiha clan's genius boy, it's good that you can see these things. But we have no choice. No choice. Shisui was stunned. Yes, the terrain of the Land of Rivers is very complex. Besides rivers, there are only high mountains. There are very few plains. Compared to the flat riverbeds, those roads are even harder to travel, especially with us transporting so many supplies. Carts and ox-carts simply can't pull them. However, there's no need to worry too much. The riverbeds in the Land of Rivers are as dense as a spider web, making it not easy for the hidden sand village people to find us. Only then did Shisui nod in understanding. But at this moment, Aburame Fu suddenly turned around, looking towards the front, muttering, "It can't be that unlucky, right? Everyone, stop and be on guard." Now, everyone in the entire team knew that the hidden sand village's attack was coming. Uchiha Shisui also became somewhat nervous. This was the first time he was facing ninjas from an enemy country. Just then, suddenly, to everyone's surprise, countless explosions came from both sides of the riverbed. Crap, it's explosive tags. Someone roared in alarm, followed by the collapse of the riverbanks on both sides, with countless rocks and dirt falling from the sky. The ninjas naturally weren't afraid of such attacks, dodging them almost instantly, but the ordinary people were miserable, almost instantly being hit and buried by the collapsing rocks, losing their lives. Uchiha Shisui, jumping into the air, looked at the scenes below filled with death and wailing, for the first time feeling what the cruelty of war was. "Ah, my legs. Save me. Cough cough cough." The constant explosions directly caused the entire river channel to be cut off by collapsed earth. Some people were directly buried, some had their legs broken, and some were blasted with blood spurting from their mouths by the force of the explosions. Uchiha Shisui's dark pupils widened as he watched the tragic scenes below, feeling an unprecedented shock. He wanted to go down and save people, but he was pulled back by a family ninja beside him. "What are you going to do?" "I want to save them." The family ninja shook his head, his gaze indifferent. "They are beyond saving. If you go down, you will only end up like them." "But, we can't just watch them die like this. They are also villagers of our village." The family ninja's gaze remained indifferent, his tone chilling. "See clearly, Shisui, you are not a god. This is war, and life is so fragile here." Shisui's pupils constricted. As he looked down, his body trembled slightly, but he didn't move a step. The other Konoha ninjas also lacked the ability to directly face such intense explosive impacts and could only hide aside, cursing fiercely. Damn it, how many explosive tags did these Sunagaku ninjas bury? The explosions lasted for a full 3 minutes before stopping, but the Konoha ninjas still didn't dare to relax their vigilance. But they waited for a long time, and when the smoke cleared, they still didn't see the attacking Sunagaku ninjas. Team leader Aburame. Their eyes all turned to Aburame Fu. Sensing the message from his insects, Aburame Fu gritted his teeth and said, "Sunagaku hasn't attacked." After speaking, he looked at the tragic scene below and sighed in his heart. "Clean up the battlefield, see how many people are alive. It seems we need to change our route." In the following journey, everyone's mood was heavy. Uchiha Shisui, ashamed of the war, also became silent. Fortunately, without any major incidents, everyone safely arrived at Konoha's camp in the Land of Rivers, Surumaru Castle. "All right, I will arrange for you to find a place to rest. I'm going to find Danzo-sama." Hearing the name Danzo, the 3 Uchiha clansmen, who had originally relaxed upon reaching the camp, changed their expressions. "Thank you." Aburame Fu naturally knew the story between the Uchiha clan and Elder Danzo. To be honest, his heart was on the side of the Uchiha clan. On the one hand, because his elder brother, Aburame Shibi, and Namikaze Minato were good friends. On the other hand, as a high-ranking member of the Aburame clan, he also knew some of Elder Danzo's methods. However, the overall interests of the village forced him to suppress everything in his heart. When he walked into the camp tent, he immediately felt a cold atmosphere. Shimura Danzo, the commander here, sat in the main seat. Beside him was Aburame Ryuma from their Aburame clan, who was now en route and Danzo's most trusted subordinate. Precisely because of this, perhaps the village felt that the Aburame clan had a good relationship with Elder Danzo. The Aburame clan was sent here to assist Danzo. Also present was the head of the Aburame clan, Aburame Shibi. "You've arrived, Fu. I heard you were attacked by Sunagaku." Although they were ninjas of the same camp, the atmosphere in the tent was very cold. It was Aburame Shibi, as the clan head, who took the initiative to speak, breaking the strange silence. Aburame Fu was stunned, then nodded. "Yes, as before, the Sunagaku ninjas only harassed us before retreating." At this moment, Danzo, with a gloomy expression, finally spoke. "It seems that the information we received was correct." Seeing Aburame Fu's puzzled look, Aburame Ryuma, also from the Aburame clan, said, "We just received news confirming that Sunagaku indeed has no intention of directly engaging in battle with us." Aburame Fu became even more puzzled. "It's like this, Fu." Aburame Shibi explained. "According to information received jointly by our informants in Sunagaku, Kumogaku, and Iwagaku, the cooperation method decided upon at the Three-Cage Summit is that, in addition to tying down a portion of our Konoha's forces here, Sunagaku will only participate in attacks against our Konoha as mercenaries." Mercenaries. That's right, Kumogaku and Iwagaku will issue missions to Sunagaku, and Sunagaku will execute the missions in exchange for rewards. This surprised Aburame Fu and also answered the doubts in his heart. "I see, I didn't expect Kumogaku and Iwagaku to agree to such a proposal. It seems that this Kazekage of Sunagaku is not an ordinary person." Hearing this, Danzo's eyes narrowed, and he said coldly, "But for the village, this is a good thing. Since Sunagaku doesn't want to fight, then we don't need to clash with them either. Tell the ninjas in the village to shrink back as much as possible." Danzo was not a warmonger. His ability to become the commander here was not really for the sake of the village, but to find an opportunity to obtain the answer he wanted from the Kazekage of Sunagaku. Moreover, although the number of Konoha ninjas here added up to more than 2,000, in terms of quality, they could not compare with the more than 1,000 ninjas sent by Sunagaku this time. Aburame Shibi nodded, also feeling relieved in his heart. It had to be said that being with this elder Danzo put a lot of psychological pressure on Aburame Shibi. Mainly because he was afraid that Danzo would act on his own. But at this moment, Danzo suddenly spoke. The Uchiha clan's genius boy, Uchiha Shisui, has also arrived, right? At the same time, Sunagaku. A place newly named by Rasa as Dragon Oasis. The senjutsu energy emitted by the divine tree was changing this oasis every day. The range of the forest was also gradually increasing. As the Jinchuriki, Bunpuku was very surprised every day to feel the changes here. Maki, the leader of the Anbu who knew of its existence, also widened his eyes every day, increasingly feeling Rasa's unfathomable nature. As for Rasa, the owner of this place, in these 7 days, other than going home at night to accompany his wife, he spent the rest of his time cultivating here. As for what he was cultivating, it was naturally senjutsu energy. With only half of his original chakra reserves, Rasa naturally couldn't confidently implement his next plan. Therefore, he wanted to break through the limitations of his body and store more senjutsu energy. As for how to do it, he didn't know either, so he could only return to the basics. Through arduous taijutsu training, supplemented by senjutsu energy, to break through the limitations of his body. However, after 7 days, the effect was not ideal. It could only be said that the effect of taijutsu training was there. The upper limit of Rasa's body's senjutsu energy storage was indeed increasing every day. Under the feedback of senjutsu energy, his body was also gradually becoming stronger. But how should he put it? This improvement was too weak. Compared to the time and energy Rasa spent every day, the efficiency was too low. With Rasa's current strength, this kind of improvement didn't really affect him much. What he needed was that kind of qualitative improvement. Because now, although he felt that he had surpassed his former self and stepped into the peak of the Kage-level powerhouse under the blessing of 2 senjutsu limit, his future opponents were Super Kage, 6 Paths, and Otsutsuki level. Their power levels were higher than the other. Of course, there was also a shortcut. That was Bunpuku next to him. If he could convert Shukaku's chakra, as a tailed beast, into senjutsu energy, then not to mention the qualitative change in the improvement of his body, the concentration of senjutsu energy in this world would also greatly increase. But Rasa still had a worry. That was the 6 Paths sage of this world, who was still not dead. He was hiding in the corner, observing this world, and he didn't want to take this risk. At least there was no need to now. Therefore, while adopting this low-efficiency cultivation method, he had to find a more efficient senjutsu energy cultivation method. The Land of Grass, one of the small countries in the ninja world. Located between the Fire Country, Earth Country, Rain Country, and Waterfall Country. The Land of Fire and the Land of Earth are, needless to say, old powers. The Rain Country, also a small country, produced a demigod like Hanzo the Salamander, who launched the Second Ninja World War. As for the Waterfall Country, the Takigakure village it possesses has a tailed beast. It can be said that none of these 4 countries are easy to get along with. Therefore, the Land of Grass has developed the means of diplomatic maneuvering between major powers to survive to this day. At this time, because the Land of Earth had already invaded the Land of Fire. The Land of Grass finally didn't have to become a battlefield for the struggle between the 2 major powers, which allowed the country to gain a rare moment of peace. And unknown to everyone, Rasa, the Kazekage of Sunagaku, led 9 members of the secret mobile unit here. As soon as they entered the territory of the Land of Grass, the 3 members of another secret mobile unit sent by Rasa to investigate the Land of Grass also appeared in front of Rasa. Their respective codenames are Sand Rat, Black Scorpion, and Red Thorns, all belonging to creatures unique to the desert. Lord Kazekage, let's talk while walking. Yes, sir. 12 Jonin, plus Rasa, the Kazekage, this operation is definitely a big deal. The 13 people rushed through the forest all the way. The three people in charge of investigating the land of grass, led by the relatively burly Black Scorpion, began to tell the information they had investigated in the land of grass. Lord Kazekage, we have found the woman of the Uzumaki clan that you asked us to investigate, her name is Hanataba. Hearing that these three companions were ordered by Lord Kazekage to investigate a member of the Uzumaki clan, the other 9 masked members of the secret mobile unit were all shocked. After the destruction of Uzushiogakure, Hanataba Uzumaki wandered to the land of grass. After being discovered by Kusagakure, they secretly hid her. Because Hanataba Uzumaki has a very special ability, injured ninjas can quickly recover their injuries and chakra by biting Hanataba Uzumaki's skin. The effect is very powerful, and it is said that even a dying person can be instantly healed. This made the other 9 people present even more surprised. Rasa already knew this, so naturally he didn't care, and just asked. Besides Hanataba Uzumaki, are there any other members of the Uzumaki clan in Kusagakure? Does this Hanataba Uzumaki have any offspring? No, Hanataba Uzumaki is only 13 years old. I see. It seems that Karen hasn't been born yet. Where did you get this information from? Reporting to Lord Kazekage, the interior of Kusagakure is very corrupt. As long as you use money, you can solve many problems. In addition, there are many contradictions within Kusagakure. The current Kusagakure is controlled by 2 factions. They are very hostile. One is the pro-war faction, called Kusa no Mi, and they are determined to revive Kusagakure. The other is the anti-war faction, called Kusa no Hana. Now, because of the war, the pro-war Kusa no Mi faction occupies most of the power in Kusagakure, and the Kusa no Hana faction is suppressed. Therefore, we tried to contact some senior members of the Kusa no Hana faction and obtained this information by supporting them as a condition. Oh, well done. This brightened Rasa's eyes. It seems that my plan can proceed more smoothly. The 12 people all looked at the Kazekage curiously. Because until now, Rasa had not told them why he had summoned all 12 of them this time. At this time, Rasa did not hide his thoughts and directly told them. It's time. This time, what we have to do is very simple, attack Kusagakure and bring Hanataba Uzumaki back to the village. These 12 people are very smart guys as Jonin in the village. As soon as Rasa said this, thinking of the current situation on the battlefield, they immediately thought of the village's tailed beast, Shukaku. Indeed, the village's Jinchuriki is too old and needs a young Jinchuriki to master Shukaku's power. No wonder even the Kazekage was dispatched this time. But, reporting to Lord Kazekage, if it's just for Hanataba Uzumaki, we can use those people from Kusa no Hana to quietly bring Hanataba out. No. Rasa shook his head. If it was just for this purpose, I wouldn't have personally dispatched. In addition to Hanataba Uzumaki, we have another mission this time, and that is to act as bait. Bait. This is definitely not a good word. Yes, our real goal is Danzo, the leader of Konoha in the land of rivers. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. The 12 Jonin were all shocked. They didn't expect that the Kazekage's target was actually Danzo, the Konoha elder who killed the 3rd Hokage and assassinated the Kazekage. Rasa didn't explain much, but directly ordered. Next, we will aggressively attack Kusagakure, forcing Kusagakure to hand over Hanataba Uzumaki. During this period, I need you to use the relationship within Kusagakure to get the leader of Kusagakure to ask for help from Konoha's elder Danzo. Can you do it? At this time, the 12 people present understood the Kazekage's intention. Sand Rat, who was in charge of contacting the senior members of Kusagakure, thought for a while and said, "This is not a difficult task. Given the current hostile relationship within Kusagakure, if we can help the people of the Kusa no Hana faction in Kusagakure solve some of the people of the Kusa no Mi faction, the people of Kusa no Hana should be willing to cooperate with us. It's just, Lord Kazekage, you can leave the bait to us. You don't need to take such a risk." Of course, Rasa would not take such a risk. He had no interest in eliminating Danzo at all. Rasa was hoping that this piece of rat droppings would live well and be left to harm Konoha. However, compared to the risk, Danzo has something that Rasa is very much looking forward to. That is Hashirama's cells and Sharingan. Besides, compared to Danzo knowing nothing about him, Rasa knows Danzo very well, and Danzo doesn't have Shisui's Sharingan yet, so the threat is greatly reduced. So, Rasa decided to take a gamble. No. Whether it's the revenge for the third Hokage or the assassination attempt on me, we must give the village an explanation. Since Konoha won't give it to us, we'll take it ourselves. Yes, sir. Seeing Rasa's decisiveness, the 12 Jonin could only obey the order. At this moment, Red Thorns, the last Jonin in charge of investigating the Land of Grass, thought of something and said. By the way, Lord Kazekage, in the process of investigating the Land of Grass, we heard another interesting thing. It is said to be a treasure left by the legendary Sage of Six Paths, called the Box of Ultimate Bliss. The Box of Ultimate Bliss. Rasa was stunned. Of course he knew about it. It seemed to be a treasure of the Sage of Six Paths that appeared in a certain movie. However, he didn't delve into it too much. He didn't have the power to contact the Sage of Six Paths now. Interesting, continue to investigate. After saying that, he glanced at the other 11 people and said. In the future, if you hear similar interesting things during the investigation, you can tell me. After all, even if Rasa is a time traveler and knows a lot of plots, he always doesn't remember some details so clearly. Yes, Lord Kazekage. Okay. Now that this matter is over, the 13 people set off again and headed towards Kusagaku. Grass-hidden village is situated on a vast plain. Here, a flower called dragon tongue is cultivated, its buds resembling red flames. Looking out, the entire plain seems like a world ablaze with scattered sparks. As for grass-hidden village, lacking natural defenses, it is constructed like a fortress. Walls of hard rock encircle the entire village, layer upon layer. The buildings inside are also entirely constructed from hard rock, creating a European castle-like atmosphere. On the walls, ninjas wearing grass-hidden village headbands patrol with serious expressions. From the patterns on their clothes, it's clear they belong to two factions. The majority of ninjas bear a pattern resembling burning grass and trees. They are the Grass of Earth faction, known for their pro-war stance. The minority wear patterns of dragon-tongued flower buds. They are the Grass of Flower faction. Their gazes are fixed on the distance, the unobstructed plain allowing them to easily spot intruders. Therefore, all the grass-hidden village ninjas on the walls noticed 13 ninjas rapidly approaching across the dragon-tongued flower-filled plain. Before they could react, these ninjas had already reached the base of the wall. Who goes there? Call out. Only when these 13 figures leapt onto the wall did the grass-hidden village ninjas clearly see the headbands on their foreheads. They're sand-hidden village ninjas. Ding ding ding. Instantly, alarms rang throughout grass-hidden village. HMPH. Gaara coldly snorted, addressing the 12 members of the Anbu squad. Execute the plan. Yes. The 12 Anbu members immediately dispersed, leaving only 3 ninjas standing behind Gaara. Seeing this, Gaara waved his hands, and Sage Chakra surged within him. Sage Art Limit, Sand Control Art, Quicksand Waterfall Flow. Instantly, the vast plain surrounding grass-hidden village transformed into a desert, a tidal wave of sand blotting out the sky and enveloping the entire village. Grass-hidden village is by no means a large village. Perhaps it was once powerful, but now it's only 3 or 4 times larger than Star-Hidden Village, which Gaara had seen before. Therefore, when Gaara's sand wave, comparable to a natural disaster, obscured the sunlight above grass-hidden village, all the ninjas were petrified. With Genin forming the main force and Chunin serving as high-ranking officials, the grass-hidden village ninjas had never seen such terrifying ninjutsu. Is this also ninjutsu? You've got to be kidding me. At this time, it wasn't just the grass-hidden village ninjas who were shocked. The 12 Anbu ninjas, witnessing the power displayed by this exaggerated technique, were also dumbfounded and dared not slack off in completing the tasks Gaara had assigned. Just then, from inside grass-hidden village, 4 figures emerged as shadows, appearing before Gaara. They were 4 ninjas wearing animal masks and long robes. They were 4 of the few Jonin in grass-hidden village. Who are you? Why are the sand-hidden village ninjas invading our grass-hidden village? Sir, the great nations have an agreement, you can't attack us without reason. Gaara ignored them, simply asking the sand rat behind him. Are those them? Yes. Sand rat nodded. Gaara brought the 12 Anbu here, of course, after taking a few days to prepare. The most important part of that preparation was Sand Rat contacting the Grass of Flower faction within Grass Hidden Village to handle cooperation matters. It must be said that the inside of Grass Hidden Village was indeed corrupt, and the hostility between the two factions had reached the point of internal strife. The conditions proposed by the Grass of Flower faction were actually for Sand Hidden Village to eliminate the high-ranking Jonin of the Grass of Earth faction. Seeing Sand Rat nod, Gaara didn't waste any time. Sage Art Limit, Sand Instant Transmission. Gaara's figure instantly transformed into a sky full of sand dust. What? The 4 Grass Hidden Village Jonin were shocked, feeling uneasy, a great terror descending upon them. They quickly activated their sensory abilities, wanting to find the location of this invader. However, they sensed nothing until a sharp pain struck. Sage Art Limit, Sand Instant Transmission, / This was Gaara's power, based on his own Sage Art Limit, Sand Control Art, the ability to elementalize, using the fact that most ninjas in this world cannot sense natural energy, silently approaching and slaying the enemy. Although it couldn't match the speed of the Flying Thunder God technique, and was useless against ninjas with extremely fast reaction speeds, it could be said to be mercilessly crushing weaker opponents. 3 huge bloody marks appeared on the abdomens of 3 Grass Hidden Village Jonin. Only the last Grass Hidden Village Jonin was left trembling, looking in horror at his companions, instantly killed. Who exactly are you people? As soon as he asked the question, his hair stood on end, his body frozen in fear. Because a cold voice sounded behind him. My name is Gaara, I am the Kazekage of Sand Hidden Village, go tell your Grass Hidden Village leader to hand over the spiral bouquet to me. Why yes. Hearing that the other party didn't want to kill him, the Grass Hidden Village Jonin, escaping a disaster, immediately fled in panic. In the center of Grass Hidden Village, in the huge tower, the high-ranking officials of Grass Hidden Village gathered together. However, judging from the solitary number now, it can be seen that there are not many Jonin in Grass Hidden Village, only about 9 people in total, sitting around. Although they were still wearing animal masks, judging from their terrified voices, one could imagine the panicked expressions under their masks. Why? How does the Kazekage of Sand Hidden Village know about the existence of the spiral bouquet? Could it be that someone in the village leaked it? You fool, is this the time for infighting? Then what do you say we should do? What else can we do? The Kazekage of Sand Hidden Village has personally arrived, can we choose not to hand it over? Damn it, so unwilling, that is the power of the Uzumaki clan, give us some more time, we will definitely be able to. Compared to the power of the Uzumaki clan, survival is the most important thing, didn't you see? Ju and the other 3 were instantly killed, do you think you are stronger than Ju and them? Obviously, between life and death, these high-ranking officials of Grass Hidden Village made the most correct choice. With the power that Gaara is showing now, even destroying Grass Hidden Village is an easy task, not to mention that there are other Sand Hidden Village Jonin here. But just then, suddenly, someone else spoke. Not, handing it over is okay, but we can't hand it over so easily. What do you mean? All eyes turned to him. Since we can't seize the Uzumaki clan's power for ourselves, we must at least cause some trouble for Sunagaku, or we'll lose all face for Kusagaku. We know that, of course, but how do we cause trouble? We're no match for the Kazekage. We may not be a match, but others are. Have you forgotten Konoha? Given the relationship between the Uzumaki clan and Konoha, Konoha will absolutely not want to hand over Uzumaki Hanataba to Sunagaku. Everyone's eyes lit up. That's right, Sunagaku wants Uzumaki Hanataba, surely for her Uzumaki clan power, to make her a Jinchuriki. Konoha definitely won't agree to that. Just then, the person who made the suggestion spoke directly. Relying on Konoha's reaction is too slow. Why not tell Danzo, the commander currently fighting Sunagaku, about this news? Why? It's simple. For the Kazekage to return to the Wind Country from our Grass Country, he must pass through the Rain Country or the Fire Country, and cross the River Country. Konoha's Danzo is currently in the River Country, making it the fastest place to intercept him upon receiving the news. Secondly, there's an irreconcilable hatred between Sunagaku and Danzo, whether it's the death of the 3rd Kazekage or Danzo's assassination attempt on the Kazekage. Finally, we all understand Danzo's desire for the Uzumaki clan's power is no weaker than ours. These well-reasoned words from the high-ranking official directly led to the agreement of all the high-ranking officials present. As Kusugakure often maneuvers around the surrounding four great nations, they have their own special contact methods with Konoha's Anbu and Root. Therefore, just over an hour later, Root received a message from Kusugakure. River Country, Tsurumaru Castle. Since it was confirmed in recent days that Tsunagakure, like the last surprise attack on the Fire Country, had no intention of truly going to war with Konoha, Konoha's battle lines had shrunk. In addition to transferring some ninjas back, Konoha's ninjas also chose to avoid direct conflict with Tsunagakure's ninjas as much as possible. However, because of the previous incident, Konoha still maintained thousands of troops in the river country to deal with possible conflicts at any time. Since there were no major events on the battlefield, Danzo, as the commander, could have returned to the village to rest for a period of time, but Danzo refused because he had discovered something that greatly interested him. What remarkable talent, Uchiha Shisui. Inside Konoha's camp, Shimura Danzo, alone, looked at the information about Uchiha Shisui collected by Root, his eyes shining brightly. He had long heard of the name of Konoha's genius boy, Uchiha Shisui, but because of the relationship between the Uchiha and Danzo, Danzo had not delved too deeply into understanding Uchiha Shisui, but now, with the close contact between the two sides in the past week, Danzo did realize the extraordinary nature of this 8-year-old child. He even saw the shadow of his old friend, Uchiha Kagami, in this child. Thinking of this, Danzo's eyes narrowed slightly, his face gloomy. Kagami, let me see how far your descendants' eyes can grow. Just then, footsteps came from outside. Danzo-sama. Enter. The one who came in was Danzo's trusted subordinate, Aburame Ryoma. He held a small piece of paper and said somewhat urgently. Danzo-sama, Root has just received a message from Kusugakure. Kusugakure. Danzo was also a little puzzled, but seeing Aburame Ryoma's somewhat nervous expression, he still took it and looked at it, and then his brows instantly furrowed. Has the message been confirmed? Aburame Ryoma only spoke of the things he had confirmed. The message was sent through the special channel between our Root and the leader of Kusugakure, which only the leader of Kusugakure knows. However, we found some Kusugakure ninjas and confirmed through interrogation ninjutsu that Kusugakure does indeed have someone with a suspected Uzumaki clan Kekkei Genkei. Danzo's face instantly turned gloomy, but his eyes took on a kind of urgency. Good, Kusugakure, daring to secretly hide the Uzumaki clan's orphan in their village. Then what do we do now, Danzo-sama? How many Jonin can be mobilized here now? Aburame Ryoma thought for a moment. Including those two Uchiha clan Jonin, plus the Root Jonin, a total of 38 Jonin can be mobilized. The Uchiha. Danzo's eyes lit up, and he immediately ordered. Gather all the Jonin. Yes. Danzo's large-scale mobilization could not be concealed from anyone. Aburame Shibi, as the deputy commander, immediately found Danzo after discovering the abnormal mobilization of ninjas in the camp. Elder Danzo, what happened? Why have all the Jonin been gathered? Danzo didn't intend to hide it from him and directly handed the message received by Root to Aburame Shibi. Aburame Shibi took it and looked at it, also greatly surprised. Danzo didn't give Aburame Shibi time to react and said, we absolutely cannot let Tsunagakure get the Uzumaki clan's orphan. Tsunagakure wants to get her, surely for Tsunagakure's Jinchuriki. Aburame Shibi nodded in agreement without refuting. So, Elder Danzo, you're planning to intercept them. Should we tell the village about this? It's too late. By the time we tell Hiruzen about this news and Hiruzen gives us a reply, I'm afraid Tsunagakure will have already obtained this Uzumaki clan orphan. Aburame Shibi also understood this reasoning. Besides, Danzo was the commander here. Then what are you planning to do, Elder Danzo? I plan to take the Jonin to intercept them. If all goes well. Danzo's eyes flashed with a hint of killing intent as he said this. It would be even better if we could leave this young Kazekage of Tsunagakure behind. That way, Tsunagakure would no longer be a threat. Aburame Shibi was shocked. Logically speaking, this was indeed a good opportunity, but for some reason, Aburame Shibi always had a feeling of unease. Tracing the origin of this unease, it was the last time during the surprise attack on the Fire Country that he had personally seen this young fourth Kazekage of Sunagaku. Thinking of this, he tentatively asked, "Elder Danzo, could this be a trap?" A trap. This not only stunned Danzo, but also Ryoma, the member of his clan, beside him. "Why do you say that?" Danzo asked. Aburame Shibi frowned. "No. I don't know, I just feel that this young Kazekage of Sunagaku is not so easy to deal with. Last time, even Minato and Jiraiya-sama suffered losses at his hands." Aburame Shibi mentioned Minato and Jiraiya only to make his words more persuasive, but unexpectedly, his words had the opposite effect. HMPH. Danzo snorted coldly and immediately made a decision. "Since you don't know, then don't say it. Summon the Jonin here. I'll take 30 of them. This time, we must leave this fourth Kazekage behind." Danzo had never imagined that Minato Namikaze, whom he considered to have no foundation, would become his biggest threat to becoming Hokage. It wasn't until this time, when Minato successfully persuaded the Uchiha clan to join the war effort in order to prevent the nine-tailed Jinchuriki from participating, that Danzo suddenly realized something was wrong. Looking back, Minato had unknowingly grown into an existence that even he couldn't ignore. The disciple of Jiraiya, one of the Sannin, the husband of Kushina Uzumaki, the nine-tailed Jinchuriki, a close friend of the heads of the four major clans of Akamichi, Nara, Yamanaka, and Aburame, the teacher of Kakashi Hatake, the son of the White Fang, a hero of the battlefield, the Yellow Flash of Konoha. And now, even the Uchiha clan was willing to support him. If Minato were to run for Hokage, there would be no one in the village who could stop him. At this moment, he seemed to understand why even Hiruzen valued Minato's opinion so much, and why he still stood behind Minato to support him during this time of village crisis, unwilling to bring the nine-tailed Jinchuriki to the battlefield. Perhaps even Hiruzen was helpless against Minato now. How could Danzo tolerate this? Especially recently, because of the matter of letting the nine-tailed Jinchuriki go to the battlefield, Minato had frequently defied his, a Konoha elders, opinion, causing Danzo to lose face in the village, and even giving the Uchiha clan, who had been suppressed by Root, a chance to breathe again. How could he not be angry? Therefore, as soon as Shibi Aburame spoke, Danzo coldly issued the order. Shibi Aburame was also helpless. Soon, after the Jonin gathered, Danzo led 30 Jonin and quietly left Surumaru Castle. Watching Danzo and the 30 Jonin leave, Shibi Aburame's unease grew even more. Because just now, a small episode had occurred. Danzo had forcibly conscripted the 2 Jonin from the Uchiha clan into this ambush against the Kazekage of Sunagaku. But there was nothing he could do, he could only order the ninjas of his clan to spread the insects as far as possible to increase vigilance. At the same time that Danzo left, the Anbu of Sunagaku, who had been prepared and hidden around Surumaru Castle, also noticed the departure of many Konoha Jonin and immediately transmitted the news. Land of Rivers. The long-abandoned Iron Fang Mine. This was Sunagaku's rearmost camp in the Land of Rivers. Unlike the ubiquitous Konoha camps, this place seemed a bit deserted. Apart from the main camp representing the commander and the camp for storing supplies, there were not many other camps. Because this was Sunagaku's operational plan for this operation, divide and conquer. In the main camp, as the commanders of the 3 major units, Chiyo, Pakura, and Mikawa were gathered together. Without Rasa here, Chiyo, as an elder, was naturally the most senior. However, she was unwilling to take the initiative to speak, so Mikawa, who was more stable, became the nominal supreme commander here, arranged by Rasa. The news from the Anbu is that everything is as the Kazekage planned. The people of Konoha have fallen into the trap we prepared. Danzo, the elder of Konoha, has left Surumaru Castle with most of the Jonin, and our main force has been secretly arranged near Surumaru Castle during this period according to the divide and conquer plan. As long as an order is given, we can form a siege against Konoha. Has the operation time been confirmed? Chiyo asked. Yes. According to the Kazekage's opinion, we plan to launch an attack on Konoha 6 hours after Danzo leaves. It will take some time to transmit all the orders and let the ninjas in the village reach the action location according to the orders. Since it has been determined, then give the order. Okay. Soon, Mikawa's order was transmitted through the Anbu of Sunagaku. Then let's act too, Chiyo said, and was about to stand up. Suddenly, the silent Pakura asked. How many people did Konoha send to Rasa's side? Chiyo and Mikawa were a little strange, but Mikawa still curiously said. According to the news from our intelligence personnel, Danzo, the elder of Konoha, led 30 Jonin to leave. I really didn't expect that Lord Kazekage's prediction was not bad at all. This Konoha elder has been completely figured out by the Kazekage. Mikawa's words of praise aroused Pakura's somewhat angry response. Even so, as the leader of the village, it is too willful to personally act as bait. Mikawa was stunned. He didn't understand what was wrong with Pakura. Wasn't this something that had already been determined? Chiyo, on the other hand, heard something with the delicacy of a woman, her eyes slightly surprised, and then comforted her and said. Don't worry, since Rasa has that certainty, then as companions, we should trust him. Moreover, hasn't the news here already been told to him? If he knows he is not an opponent, he will definitely not take risks. Pakura nodded slightly. So, the three of them left the camp and led their respective subordinates to set off. In an instant, undercurrents began to surge throughout the land of rivers. At this time, in Kusagaku village. In a building like a giant tower, there were prisons built of wooden fences. This was the place used by the land of grass to imprison prisoners. And deep in the dim prison, in a small house where only a window the size of 2 palms could penetrate a little sunlight. A beautiful girl with red hair, wearing a simple robe like a prisoner's uniform, hugged her head and curled up on the simple wooden bed. Looking closely, you could see that her exposed arms and thighs were covered with teeth marks, and her feet were wearing chakra sealing shackles. At this moment, there were some hasty footsteps outside. As the footsteps got closer and closer, 2 prison guards wearing Kusagaku ninja costumes quickly ran over, opened the cage, and shouted in the girl's dull eyes. Follow us. The girl did not resist in any way, because she was already used to being treated like this. Soon, as she passed through the long corridor, bright sunlight appeared at the end of the corridor. Just as the girl stepped into the light with half a foot. The dazzling sunlight made her squint slightly. When she adapted, she reopened her eyes, and what caught the girl's eyes was a scene she had never imagined. Like the end of the world, the sky-covering sandstorm enveloped the entire Kusagaku village. The air was also filled with yellow sand, which made the originally green Kusagaku village gray. At this time, she finally noticed the fear on the faces of these Kusagaku ninjas who had abused her. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. What's going on? There was finally a trace of change in her lifeless eyes. At this moment, a voice rang in her ears. Is that her? Yes. Yes, Lord Kazekage, this is the orphan of the Uzumaki clan, named Hanataba. Beside her, several high-level officials of Kusagaku gathered together, their eyes full of fear. Hanataba Uzumaki slightly raised her head and looked in the direction of the voice, and saw a man with short brown hair and an extraordinary aura floating above the sky, slowly descending in front of her like a god. It could only be said that she was indeed the future Karen's mother. At this moment, appearing before Rasa was a girl who bore an 80% resemblance to Karen from the future storyline. Judging by her age, she looked to be about 13 or 14, very young, with the Uzumaki clan's unique red eyes and hair, wearing clothes that resembled prison garb, her exposed skin covered in bite marks, and looking at Rasa with fear and unease. This caused Rasa to frown slightly and say to the few high-level officials from Kusagaku beside him with some displeasure. Release her restraints. Yes. Yes. Feeling Rasa's anger, these people instantly became flustered and immediately ordered the jailer to unlock the shackles on Hanataba's hands. Clang. The shackles binding Uzumaki Hanataba's chakra were opened, falling to the ground with a crisp sound. Then, Hanataba, who had originally been fearful and uneasy, suddenly widened her eyes as if she had seen something incredible, looking at Rasa with a surprised gaze, her lips slightly moving. This change naturally couldn't escape the notice of everyone here. Rasa was, of course, also very curious. However, he had no intention of getting the answer here. Now that he had obtained the person he wanted, there was no need to continue staying in Kusagaku. A cloud of gold dust gathered beneath their feet. The weak girl was startled and sat down heavily, unable to stand steadily. Fortunately, the sand was very soft. Rasa ignored the hidden resentful gazes of the Kusagakure ninja, directly dispelled the ninjutsu surrounding Sunagakure, and slowly flew into the sky, leaving Kusagakure. In this world, possessing absolute power meant being unreasonable. Rasa's figure quickly disappeared from the sight of the Kusagakure ninja. Upon seeing this, the Kusagakure ninja revealed resentment and immediately began transmitting all the information here to Konoha. Dash 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 dash. In the forest 10 kilometers outside Kusagakure, Rasa was not in a hurry to return to the village, but waited quietly here. Before long, Kurori's figure appeared beside Rasa in a flash, and after taking a look at the somewhat dazed Uzumaki clan survivor beside Rasa, he said. Reporting to Kazekage-sama, the bait has been released. Then let's set off too. Understood. In the forest, 12 figures flickered and disappeared into the forest, clearing the way for Rasa in advance. Rasa then re-controlled the gold dust cloud and flew up. His flying speed was not fast, because although the bait had been thrown out, he still needed to wait for the fish to take the bait. Next, they would first cross the Kusagakure, then enter the land of fire, reach the land of rivers, and finally return to the land of wind. As for why not choose a closer route and directly pass through the land of rain to return to the land of wind? Because in terms of weather, the land of rain, filled with rain, was still very restraining to Rasa's current abilities. Next would be a very crucial battle, and Rasa would not leave himself any flaws. At this time, Rasa finally turned his attention to the girl beside him. Unlike the fear and unease she showed during their first meeting, Rasa noticed that after the shackles on her body were unlocked, the girl in front of him was looking at him with a curious and surprised gaze. Feeling Rasa's gaze turn towards her as well, the girl named Hanataba revealed a trace of panic. This made Rasa somewhat curious. You don't seem to be afraid of me. Hanataba was startled, then her weak lips moved slightly, and she said nervously in a voice that only the two of them could hear. Chakra, your chakra is very warm. This was an answer that surprised Rasa. Rasa certainly remembered that in the storyline, Karen's sensory abilities were also very outstanding, and she also had a sensory ability called Kagura Shingen, but wasn't that only for chakra. But now, the Uzumaki Hanataba in front of him could even sense the sage art energy in his body. So, he asked curiously. You can sense the power within me. Hanataba nodded her head somewhat fearfully, but her voice was slightly louder as she said. It's different from all the chakra I've ever sensed. It's as warm as the sun. As warm as the sun. Listening to the girl's weak voice, Rasa's expression shifted slightly. However, he didn't ask any more questions, but took out some food and water from his clothes and placed them in front of Hanataba. Your body is too weak, eat something to replenish your strength first, next, there will be a battle. Hanataba's eyes widened in surprise, and then, without hesitation, she grabbed the food and water and desperately stuffed them into her mouth. Rasa wanted to comfort her and tell her to eat slowly, but after thinking about it, he didn't do anything more. And so, time slowly passed. About 2 hours later, Kurori appeared beside Rasa once again. Reporting to Kazekage-sama, the message from the Anbu is that Konoha's Danzo is leading 30 Konoha Jonin to intercept us on the way. Hanataba, who had finished eating and recovered somewhat, paled. Although she didn't know what was happening so far, she still understood what 30 Jonin meant. This reminded her of when her hometown, the Uzumaki clan, was destroyed. Then, she heard Rasa's confident voice. 30 Jonin. That's quite the investment. Continue to act according to the original plan. Let me see who is the mantis and who is the oriole. Understood, Kazekage-sama. Hanataba stared blankly at all of this. Although she didn't understand what was happening, she still vaguely felt a sense of unease. Just then, Rasa spoke. You should already know, I am Sunagakure's fourth Kazekage. Rasa, this time I came here personally to bring you to Sunagakure, because Sunagakure needs the power of the Uzumaki clan. Hanataba's eyes dimmed. However, she was already used to this, because she knew that her greatest value was only the Uzumaki clan's blood flowing in her body. So, are you willing to join Tsunagaku? Seeming to recall her unbearable past, Hanataba said in a calm but sorrowful tone. Tsunagaku, Kusagaku, it makes no difference to me. As she spoke, she hugged her knees and curled up into a ball. Rasa felt the sadness in this girl's heart, thought for a moment, and said in a deep voice. I don't like to say hypocritical words, but there is one thing I can promise in the name of the Kazekage, in Tsunagaku, no one will bully you again. Uzumaki Hanataba's red eyes trembled slightly, her gaze filled with some anticipation, yet also with some unease. Seeing this, Rasa didn't say any more nonsense. You should recover your body first, there will be a battle next, but don't worry. Everything is according to plan. Rasa didn't plan to send Hanataba back to the village alone, because he couldn't completely trust the strength of his subordinates, and also, he alone as bait wouldn't be able to lure Danzo into lowering his guard, so Uzumaki Hanataba had to stay by his side. The border between the Land of Fire and the Land of Rivers. Near the territory of the Land of Rain, Danzo led the Konoha Jonin to lie in ambush here. Although the border between the Land of Fire and the Land of Rivers is very long, the Sand Village ninjas can only go this way if they want to return to the Land of Wind as quickly as possible. As for whether it is possible for the Sand Village ninjas to return to the Land of Wind through the Land of Rain. After Danzo carefully read the information he had obtained, he felt it was impossible. Because this young Kazekage's bloodline limit, whether it is sand control jutsu or magnet release, gold dust jutsu, cannot be used in a place like the Land of Rain. However, just in case, Danzo still sent out the Jonin with sensory and reconnaissance abilities, distributing them on the border between the Land of Rain and the Land of Fire. And so, after waiting for almost 4 hours, there was finally a reply from the front. The Sand Village ninjas have appeared. Above the vast forest, an eagle is flying in the sky. From the humane and intelligent eyes of this eagle, it can be seen that this is not an ordinary animal. Yes, this is a ninja hawk. In this ninja world, ninja hawks, ninja dogs, and ninja cats are the most common summoned beasts. Although they do not have strong attack power, they are very useful in transmitting messages and reconnaissance. Taking ninja hawks as an example, the flying ability and supervision and dynamic capture ability of eagles allow them to discover the traces of enemies as far as 10 kilometers away. This is already far beyond the sensory abilities of most ninjas. In the shadows of the forest, Danzo, who was hiding here, asked Ryuma Aburame. Has it been confirmed? Ryuma nodded and said, after the ninja hawk discovered them, I have already confirmed it through the bugs. It is indeed the 4th Kazekage of the Sand Village, and there is also a red-haired girl who should be the Uzumaki clan survivor from Kusagaku, named Hanataba. How far are they from us now? Less than 8 kilometers. Then let them take action. Yes. Border of the Land of Fire. In the sky, Rasa, standing on a cloud of gold dust, finally arrived at the border of the Land of Fire in the afternoon after more than 4 hours of travel, and was about to enter the Land of Rivers. As a border area between the 3 countries, the terrain here is very special. It can be seen that after passing through the Land of Fire, the entire ground of the Land of Rivers seems to have been peeled off, and the horizon has dropped nearly 100 meters like a cliff. This makes the entire Land of Rivers seem to be in a canyon. No wonder there are so many rivers in the Land of Rivers. As the saying goes, water flows to low places. The Land of Rivers, located in a land like a depression, gathers most of the rivers from the surrounding major countries. At this time, even if Rasa's sensory ability is average, looking at the low-lying Land of Rivers in front of him, he can feel the hidden danger, just like a natural trap, waiting for the prey to enter. Although Rasa's action this time is based on the idea of a mantis stalking a cicada, unaware of the oriole behind, it is impossible for him to rush into the trap set by the opponent so impulsively. Thinking of this, he beckoned and at the same time controlled the gold dust cloud to descend and fall into the forest, hiding his figure. This immediately caused the Konoha ninja hawk in the sky to lose track of Rasa. Soon, the 12 Jonin of the covert mobile unit came to his side, extremely respectful. Rasa did not waste time asking these 12 Sand Village Jonin if they could detect the danger in the forest ahead, but directly asked Hanataba beside him. Hanataba, I know you have excellent sensory abilities. Can you sense how many Konoha ninjas are in front of you, and where are their approximate locations? As soon as these words came out, the 12 Sand Village Jonin looked at Hanataba with some surprise. This girl, whom their Kazekage personally brought back from Kusagakure, from the Uzumaki clan, actually has such abilities? Then, the next scene made these Sand Village Jonin exclaim in amazement. It could be seen that Hanataba only hesitated slightly, then formed the rat hand seal with both hands, closed her eyes, and began to sense everything in front of her. 1. 2. Before long, Hanataba sensed the location of all the Konoha ninjas. A total of 31 people. Their chakra is very large, divided into 4 echelons, 3 kilometers, 4 kilometers, 5 kilometers, and 7 kilometers away from us, respectively. The first and second echelons have 9 people, the third echelon has 7 people, and the fourth echelon has 5 people. One person in the fourth echelon has the largest chakra, and he has a very gloomy feeling. Speaking of this, Hanataba seemed to be frightened and shuddered. Not bad. Rasa's face was full of appreciation. Although the other 12 Sand Village Jonin were wearing masks, they could also feel their incredible emotions. No wonder the Kazekage values this woman so much. Not to mention her Uzumaki clan bloodline, just this sensory ability is unmatched by anyone in the village. After praising her, Rasa said to his subordinates, "It seems that the Konoha ninjas are preparing to use an echelon approach to hold you back one by one, so as to finally attack me, the Kazekage. Then, Kazekage-sama, what should we do now? HMPH, since the Konoha ninjas have planned so well, wouldn't it be a shame if we didn't put on a show for them, after they've been waiting here for so long? Let you play with the Konoha ninjas. It would be even better if you could take care of them." The 12 members of the covert mobile unit were a little stunned. It wasn't that they were unwilling to obey the Kazekage's orders, but the troop strength of both sides seemed a little too unequal. They only have 12 people, but the other side has 30 people. Sensing the hesitation of the crowd, Rasa calmly put his hands together, and the senjutsu energy in his body surged. Sage Art. Shukaku's appearance, Tanuki Samurai. In the forest of the Land of Rivers. The Sand Village ninjas suddenly stopped and hid in the forest, shocking all the Konoha ninjas who were lying in ambush. Beside Danzo, Ryama Aburame frowned and said, "Have we been discovered, Danzo-sama?" Danzo's eyes were gloomy. So what if we've been discovered? The leak of his own secrets had long made Danzo regard this Sand Village Kazekage as a thorn in his side. In any case, he must find out from this Kazekage who in the village leaked this secret. Not to mention, there is also a surprise now. The Uzumaki clan. If he can get this Uzumaki clan survivor, then perhaps he can try to control the 9 tails as well. After all, if there is no Uzumaki Kushina, then this Uzumaki clan will become the only choice for the village. Thinking of this, Danzo looked at the towering cliff in the distance, his eyes narrowed, and then he turned around and said to the 4 Konoha ninjas behind him who were carrying huge scrolls, "Start the operation." Yes, for more thrilling fanfiction stories like this, check out my channel Fanfic Audiobook. Dive into epic adventures, mysterious realms, and legendary journeys brought to life through immersive storytelling. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing audiobooks.